a millionaire begins to doubt the intentions of his daughter's boyfriend and decides to test his honesty in an extreme way. He forces the young woman to pretend to be a poor person, without resources and without her fortune. What the boyfriend does leaves the millionaire completely shocked. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. Olivia Sinclair stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of her penthouse suite, gazing out at the glittering New York City skyline. The view was breathtaking, a sea of twinkling lights stretching as far as the eye could see. But for Olivia, it was just another reminder of the gilded cage she called home. At 25, Olivia had everything a young woman could want, or so the world thought. She was the only daughter of business tycoon Raymond Sinclair, heir to the Sinclair Empire, and one of the wealthiest heiresses in America. Her closet was filled with designer clothes, her garage housed a fleet of luxury cars, and her social calendar was always full of exclusive events and star-studded parties. But as she stood there, wrapped in a silk robe worth more than most people's monthly salary, Olivia felt a familiar emptiness gnawing at her heart. She turned away from the window, her bare feet sinking into the plush carpet as she made her way to her king-sized bed. She picked up her phone, smiling softly, as she saw a text from her boyfriend, Jake. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow, beautiful. Sweet dreams." Jake was the one bright spot in Olivia's carefully curated life. A freelance photographer with a passion for capturing the raw beauty of everyday life, Jake was everything the men in Olivia's social circle were not: genuine, down-to-earth, and completely unimpressed by her family's wealth and status. They had met 6 months ago at a charity gala where Jake was working as an event photographer. Olivia had been immediately drawn to his easy smile and the way he seemed to see beyond her designer dress and diamond jewelry. When he asked for her number at the end of the night, Olivia had given it to him without hesitation, feeling a spark of excitement she hadn't experienced in years. Since then, Jake had become her anchor in a world of superficiality and pretense. With him, Olivia felt like she could be herself. Not Olivia Sinclair, the Sinclair heiress, but just Olivia, a young woman trying to find her place in the world. As she typed a quick reply to Jake, Olivia heard a knock at her door. "Come in," she called out, expecting it to be one of the household staff. To her surprise, it was her father who entered the room. Raymond Sinclair was an imposing figure, tall and broad-shouldered, with salt-and-pepper hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. He was still dressed in his tailored suit despite the late hour, a sign that he had just returned from another long day at the office. "Olivia," he said, his voice as crisp and authoritative as always, "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Olivia shook her head, setting her phone aside. "No, Dad, is everything okay?" Raymond's expression was unreadable as he crossed the room to stand by the window, his hands clasped behind his back. "I wanted to talk to you about Jake," he said, turning to face her. Olivia felt a flicker of apprehension. Her father had never openly disapproved of her relationship with Jake, but she knew he had his reservations. In Raymond Sinclair's world, everyone had an angle, and he couldn't fathom why a man of Jake's modest means would be interested in Olivia for anything other than her money. "What about Jake?" Olivia asked, trying to keep her voice neutral. Raymond sighed, running a hand through his hair, a rare display of uncertainty from a man who always seemed to have all the answers. "Olivia, you know I only want what's best for you," he began. "You're my only child, my heir. Everything I've built, everything I've worked for, it's all for you." Olivia felt a familiar mix of love and frustration well up inside her. She knew her father loved her, but sometimes his love felt suffocating, more like possession than affection. "I know, Dad," she said softly. "But what does this have to do with Jake?" Raymond's eyes met hers, and Olivia was startled by the intensity she saw there. "I'm concerned, Olivia. I've seen too many people try to take advantage of our family over the years. How can we be sure Jake isn't just another fortune hunter?" Olivia felt a surge of anger. "Jake isn't like that, Dad. He doesn't care about our money. He loves me for who I am." Raymond raised an eyebrow. "And how can you be so sure? Has he ever been tested? Has he ever had to choose between you and the lifestyle our wealth provides?" Olivia opened her mouth to argue, but the words died on her lips. Her father had a point, one that had niggled at the back of her mind in her darkest moments of doubt. How could she be absolutely certain of Jake's motives when she had never known a life without wealth and privilege? Seeing the doubt in her eyes, Raymond pressed on. "I have a proposition for you, Olivia. A way to know for sure if Jake truly loves you for who you are." Olivia's heart began to race. She knew her father well enough to know that whatever he was about to suggest would be no small thing. "What kind of proposition?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Raymond's eyes gleamed with a mixture of determination and what might have been regret. "I want you to give it all up," he said. "Your money, your status, this lifestyle. I want you to live as an ordinary person, without the Sinclair name or fortune to fall back on." Olivia felt as if the ground had disappeared from beneath her feet. "What? Dad, you can't be serious." But Raymond Sinclair's expression left no room for doubt. He was deadly serious. "It's the only way to know for sure, Olivia. If Jake truly loves you for who you are, it won't matter if you're a Sinclair or a nobody. And if he doesn't..." Raymond trailed off, leaving the implication hanging in the air. Olivia's mind reeled. What her father was suggesting was insane. A complete upheaval of her entire life. And yet a small part of her, the part that had always wondered what life would be like without the weight of the Sinclair name, was intrigued. "How would this even work?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. Raymond's expression softened slightly. "Leave the details to me. All you need to do is agree. Say yes and we'll put Jake's love to the ultimate test." Olivia looked around her luxurious room, at all the trappings of wealth that had defined her existence for as long as she could remember. Then she thought of Jake, of his warm smile and kind eyes, of the way he made her feel seen and understood. Taking a deep breath, Olivia met her father's gaze. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do it." As the words left her lips, Olivia had no idea of the roller coaster she had just agreed to board. Her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined, and the journey ahead would test not just Jake's love, but everything she thought she knew about herself and the world around her. Raymond nodded, a mix of emotions flashing across his face. "Good," he said. "We'll start tomorrow. Get some rest, Olivia. You're going to need it." As her father left the room, closing the door softly behind him, Olivia sank onto her bed, her head spinning. What had she just agreed to? And more importantly, what would it reveal about Jake, about herself, and about the life she had always taken for granted? As she lay back on her silk sheets, staring up at the ornate ceiling, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that she had just set in motion something that would change her life forever. For better or worse, nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning dawned bright and clear, but for Olivia Sinclair it felt like the beginning of the end. She had barely slept, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. As she stood in front of her full-length mirror, taking in her designer pajamas and perfectly manicured nails, she wondered how long it would be before she saw this reflection again. A knock on the door startled her out of her reverie. "Come in," she called, her voice shakier than she would have liked. Her father entered, followed by a woman Olivia had never seen before. The stranger was middle-aged, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense expression. She carried a large duffel bag and what looked like a hairdresser's kit. "Olivia," Raymond said, his voice gentler than usual. "This is Maria. She's going to help you with your transformation." Olivia nodded numbly, unable to find words. This was really happening. Maria stepped forward, offering Olivia a sympathetic smile. "Don't worry, dear," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. "We'll take this one step at a time." Over the next few hours, Olivia watched in the mirror as her old self slowly disappeared. Maria skillfully cut and dyed her long, honey-blonde hair into a short, nondescript brown bob. Gone were the highlights that had cost a small fortune, replaced by a color that could be found in any drugstore hair dye kit. As Maria worked, Raymond explained the plan. "We've rented an apartment for you in Queens," he said. "It's small, but it's in a decent neighborhood. You'll be working as a waitress at a local cafe." Olivia's eyes widened. "A waitress? Dad, I've never worked a day in my life. How am I supposed to—" "You'll learn," Raymond interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. "That's the point of all this, Olivia. To see how you manage in the real world, without all the advantages you've always had." As Maria finished with her hair, she moved on to Olivia's nails, removing the perfectly applied gel manicure and replacing it with short, unpolished nails. Olivia flexed her fingers, marveling at how different they looked, how ordinary. "What about Jake?" Olivia asked, voicing the question that had been burning in her mind since last night. "What do I tell him?" Raymond's expression hardened slightly. "Nothing," he said. "As far as Jake is concerned, you've had to leave town suddenly on family business. We'll make sure he can't trace you to your new location." Olivia felt a pang of guilt. Lying to Jake went against everything their relationship stood for, but she reminded herself that this was all to prove his love, to silence the doubts her father had planted in her mind. As the makeover continued, Olivia's designer clothes were replaced with simple off-the-rack items, jeans, t-shirts, and a couple of basic dresses. Her Jimmy Choo heels were swapped for comfortable flats and a pair of well-worn sneakers. "Remember," Raymond said as Maria packed up her things, "for the next few months, you're not Olivia Sinclair. You're just Olivia, a regular girl trying to make ends meet in the big city." Olivia nodded, still struggling to process the magnitude of what was happening. "How long do I have to do this?" she asked, hating how small her voice sounded. Raymond's expression softened slightly. "As long as it takes," he said. "This isn't just about Jake, Olivia. It's about you, too. I want you to understand what life is like for people who don't have the advantages you've always had." As Maria left, Raymond handed Olivia a small envelope. Inside was a key, a Metro card, and a few $100s in cash. "This is to get you started," he said. "After this, you're on your own. Your first shift at the cafe starts tomorrow morning." Olivia clutched the envelope, feeling overwhelmed. "Dad," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "what if I can't do this?" For a moment, Raymond's stern facade cracked, and Olivia saw a flicker of the loving father she remembered from her childhood. He placed a hand on her shoulder, squeezing gently. "You can," he said. "You're a Sinclair. We don't give up no matter how tough things get." With that, he turned and left the room, leaving Olivia alone with her thoughts and her new reflection in the mirror. As the day wore on, Olivia found herself going through the motions in a daze. She packed a small bag with her new modest belongings, said goodbye to the staff who had been like family to her, all sworn to secrecy about her whereabouts, and prepared to leave the only home she had ever known. As evening fell, Raymond drove her to her new apartment in Queens, the car ride silent and tense. When they pulled up in front of a nondescript brick building, Olivia felt her heart sink. This was to be her new home. "Remember," Raymond said, as Olivia gathered her things, "no contact with anyone from your old life. That includes me. If there's an emergency, Maria will be your point of contact." Olivia nodded, fighting back tears. Despite her reservations about this plan, the reality of being cut off from everything and everyone she knew was hitting her hard. As she stepped out of the car, Raymond called out one last time. "Olivia," he said, his voice softer than she had heard it in years. "I know this seems harsh, but I truly believe it's for the best. I love you." Before Olivia could respond, he had driven away, leaving her standing alone on the sidewalk in front of her new life. The apartment was small and sparsely furnished, a far cry from the luxury she was used to. As Olivia looked around the tiny studio, with its second-hand furniture and bare walls, the magnitude of what she had agreed to finally hit her full force. She sank onto the lumpy couch, buried her face in her hands, and allowed herself to cry. All the fear, uncertainty, and doubt she had been holding back came pouring out in racking sobs that echoed in the empty apartment. As her tears subsided, Olivia took a deep breath and straightened up. She caught sight of herself in the small mirror hanging on the wall and barely recognized the girl staring back at her. Gone was Olivia Sinclair, the glamorous heiress. In her place was just Olivia, an ordinary girl about to face the challenge of a lifetime. With trembling hands, she reached for her new basic phone, a far cry from her usual top-of-the-line smartphone. She had one text message from an unknown number. It was from Maria. "Good luck on your first day tomorrow. Remember, this is your chance to discover who you really are. Embrace it." Olivia read the message several times, letting the words sink in. As scared as she was, a small part of her was also excited. For the first time in her life, she had the chance to find out who she was without the weight of the Sinclair name and fortune. As she prepared for bed, setting the alarm for her early morning shift, Olivia made a promise to herself. She would see this through, no matter how hard it got. She would prove to her father, to Jake, and most importantly to herself, that she was more than just a rich girl playing at real life. Tomorrow would be the first day of her new life, and Olivia was determined to face it head-on. As she drifted off to sleep on the unfamiliar bed, Her last thought was of Jake. Would he recognize the person she was about to become? And more importantly, would she still recognize herself? The shrill sound of an alarm clock pierced through Olivia's fitful sleep, jolting her awake. For a moment, she lay disoriented, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling above her. Then reality came crashing down. This was her new life now. Groaning, Olivia dragged herself out of bed, her body protesting against the early hour and the less than comfortable mattress. She stumbled to the tiny bathroom, wincing as her bare feet touched the cold linoleum floor. The face that greeted her in the mirror was a stark reminder of yesterday's transformation. Short brown hair, bare face, and tired eyes that spoke of a restless night. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection, trying to summon the confidence that had always come so easily in her old life. But as she fumbled through her new morning routine, struggling with the temperamental shower, burning her toast in the ancient toaster, Olivia felt anything but confident. By the time she left her apartment, already running late for her first shift at the cafe, Olivia was a bundle of nerves. The busy streets of Queens were a far cry from her usual chauffeur-driven commutes through Manhattan. She found herself jostled by the morning crowd, struggling to navigate the unfamiliar subway system. When she finally arrived at Joe's Corner Cafe, a quaint but busy establishment tucked between a laundromat and a bodega, Olivia was flustered and out of breath. She pushed open the door, the cheerful jingle of bells a stark contrast to her frazzled state. "You must be Olivia," a voice called out. A middle-aged woman with a kind face and graying hair tied back in a neat bun approached her. "I'm Susan, the manager. We were starting to wonder if you'd show up." Olivia felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," she stammered. "I got a bit lost and—" Susan waved off her apologies with a good-natured smile. "First day jitters, I get it. Come on, let's get you set up." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as Susan walked Olivia through the basics of her new job. How to operate the cash register, the intricacies of the menu, the art of balancing multiple orders. It was all foreign territory for Olivia, who had never so much as poured her own coffee before. "Don't worry if you don't get it all at once," Susan reassured her, noticing Olivia's overwhelmed expression. "It takes time. Just do your best and ask for help if you need it." As the morning rush began in earnest, Olivia found herself thrown into the deep end. She fumbled orders, spilled coffee, and struggled to keep up with the fast-paced environment. Each mistake made her more flustered, her cheeks burning with shame as she apologized profusely to annoyed customers. "I'll have a grande half-caf soy latte with an extra shot and sugar-free vanilla syrup," one particularly impatient customer rattled off rapid-fire. Olivia blinked, her mind spinning. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" she asked timidly. The customer huffed in exasperation. "Never mind, I'll go somewhere else," he snapped, storming out of the cafe. Olivia felt tears pricking at her eyes. She had never felt so incompetent in her life. In her old world, she was always in control, always perfectly poised. Here, she couldn't even take a simple coffee order. As the morning wore on, Olivia's feet began to ache, unused to standing for so long. Her hands were red and raw from washing dishes, and she had lost count of the number of times she had to wipe spilled coffee off her apron. During a rare lull in customers, Olivia retreated to the back room, finally allowing herself a moment to breathe. She leaned against the wall, closing her eyes and fighting back tears of frustration. "Rough first day, huh?" a voice said, startling her. Olivia opened her eyes to see a young man about her age, dressed in the same uniform she wore. He had kind brown eyes and a sympathetic smile. "I'm Alex," he said, offering her a paper cup filled with water. "I remember my first day. It gets easier, I promise." Olivia accepted the water gratefully. "Does it?" she asked, unable to keep the doubt from her voice. "I feel like I'm doing everything wrong." Alex chuckled. "Trust me, we've all been there. The trick is to not let it get to you. These people," he gestured towards the front of the cafe, "they're just passing through. Their bad mood isn't about you, it's about their own stress. Don't take it personally." Olivia nodded, surprised by the wisdom in Alex's words. In her old life, she had rarely given much thought to the service workers she encountered daily. Now she was gaining a whole new perspective. "Thanks, Alex," she said, offering him a small smile. "I appreciate the advice." As they headed back out to the front, Olivia felt a renewed determination. She might not be perfect at this job yet, but she was going to give it her all. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity. Olivia made more mistakes, but she also had small victories, successfully remembering a complicated order, receiving a smile and a thank you from a grateful customer. By the time her shift ended, she was exhausted but oddly satisfied. As she left the cafe, the cool evening air a welcome relief after the heat of the kitchen, Olivia found herself looking at the world around her with new eyes. The bustling streets, the diverse mix of people, it all seemed so much more vibrant and real than the rarefied world she had left behind. Walking back to her apartment, Olivia's thoughts turned to Jake. She wondered what he was doing, if he was worried about her sudden disappearance. The urge to call him, to hear his voice and share her experiences was almost overwhelming. But she resisted, reminding herself of the purpose behind this charade. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, her legs protesting each step, Olivia reflected on the day's events. It had been hard, harder than anything she had ever done before, but she had survived. More than that, she had learned things about herself and the world that she never would have discovered in her sheltered existence. Collapsing onto her bed, too tired to even change out of her coffee-stained uniform, Olivia felt a small spark of pride. She had made it through her first day in this new reality. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As she drifted off to sleep, Olivia's last thought was a surprising one. For the first time in her life, she felt like she had truly earned her rest, and somehow that made all the difference. As days turned into weeks, Olivia found herself slowly adapting to her new life. The early morning shifts at Joe's Corner Cafe no longer felt like a shock to her system, and she was gradually becoming more proficient at her job. The regulars had started to recognize her, greeting her with friendly smiles and casual conversation. It wasn't the life she was used to, but Olivia was surprised to find a certain satisfaction in the simplicity of her new routine. One particularly busy morning, as Olivia juggled multiple orders and navigated the crowded cafe floor, the bell above the door jingled. She glanced up, ready to greet another customer, only to freeze in shock. Standing in the doorway, looking as out of place as a peacock in a henhouse, was Veronica Astor, one of Olivia's closest friends from her old life. Veronica's perfectly manicured hand flew to her mouth, her eyes widening in recognition. "Olivia," she gasped, loud enough to draw curious glances from nearby customers. "Oh my God, is that you?" Panic seized Olivia. This wasn't supposed to happen. Her old world and new world were never meant to collide like this. She quickly averted her gaze, praying that Veronica would think she'd made a mistake and leave. But Veronica was not so easily deterred. She marched up to the counter, her Louboutin heels clicking against the worn linoleum floor. "Olivia Sinclair, I know it's you," she insisted, her voice a mix of confusion and concern. "What on earth are you doing here? And what happened to your hair?" Olivia felt the eyes of her co-workers and customers on her, curiosity piqued by this unexpected drama. She knew she had to act fast to salvage the situation. "I'm sorry, miss," Olivia said, affecting her best confused expression. "But I think you've mistaken me for someone else." "My name is Olivia, yes, but I'm not the person you're looking for." Veronica's perfectly shaped eyebrows furrowed in disbelief. "Don't be ridiculous, Liv. I'd know you anywhere. What's going on? Are you in some kind of trouble? Is this about Jake?" The mention of Jake's name sent a jolt through Olivia's heart. She hadn't allowed herself to think about him much lately, the pain of separation too acute. But hearing his name spoken so casually by Veronica brought all her emotions rushing back to the surface. "Ma'am," Olivia said, struggling to keep her voice steady, "I really don't know what you're talking about. Now, can I take your order or not?" Veronica stared at her for a long moment, hurt and confusion warring in her eyes. Finally, she shook her head. I'm sorry," she mumbled. "I guess I was mistaken." Without ordering anything, she turned and hurried out of the cafe, the bell jingling in her wake. Olivia let out a shaky breath, aware of the curious stares still directed her way. She plastered on a smile and turned to the next customer. "How can I help you today?" As she mechanically took orders and prepared drinks, Olivia's mind was in turmoil. She had just lied to one of her closest friends, denied her very identity. The weight of her deception felt heavier than ever. "Everything okay?" Alex asked during a lull, concern evident in his voice. "That seemed like a pretty intense encounter." Olivia forced a smile. "Just a case of mistaken identity," she said lightly. nothing to worry about. But as the day wore on, Olivia couldn't shake off the encounter with Veronica. It was a stark reminder of the life she had left behind, and the people who were undoubtedly worried about her. She found herself wondering what Jake thought of her sudden disappearance. Was he looking for her? Had he given up? The uncertainty gnawed at her. That evening, as Olivia walked home from her shift, her mind still preoccupied with thoughts of her old life, she failed to notice the figure approaching her until it was too late. "Olivia!" a familiar voice called out. Olivia's head snapped up, her heart leaping into her throat. Standing before her, looking as handsome and kind as ever, was Jake. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Olivia drank in the sight of him, noting the worry lines etched on his forehead, the dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he hadn't been sleeping well. "Jake!" she breathed, her carefully constructed facade crumbling in the face of his presence. "What are you doing here?" Jake stepped closer, his eyes scanning her face, taking in her altered appearance. "I've been looking everywhere for you," he said, his voice a mix of relief and confusion. "Your father said you had to leave town suddenly, but something didn't feel right." "I've been worried sick, Liv." Guilt washed over Olivia. She had known this charade would hurt Jake, but seeing the evidence of his concern made her question the wisdom of this entire plan. I can explain," she started, but the words caught in her throat. How could she possibly explain this situation without revealing the truth? Jake reached out, gently touching her arm. "Liv, what's going on? Why are you dressed like this? Why are you working in a cafe? Is someone forcing you to do this?" The concern in his voice touched Olivia deeply. This was Jake, the man she loved, the man who had always seen beyond her wealth and status. And here he was, having searched for her, worried about her well-being. For a brief moment, Olivia was tempted to tell him everything, to confess about her father's test, to beg for his understanding and forgiveness. But the memory of her promise and the lingering doubt planted by her father held her back. "Jake, she began, her mind racing to concoct a plausible explanation. "I needed some time away, to figure things out, to understand who I am without all the trappings of my old life." Jake's brow furrowed in confusion. "But why didn't you tell me? I would have understood. I would have supported you." Olivia felt tears pricking at her eyes. "I know you would have," she said softly. "But this was something I needed to do on my own. Please understand." Jake was silent for a long moment, his eyes searching hers. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "I don't fully understand, but if this is what you need, I'll respect that. Just please don't shut me out, Liv. Let me be here for you, whatever you're going through." His words, so full of love and understanding, nearly broke Olivia's resolve. She wanted nothing more than to fall into his arms, to let him comfort her and share the burden of her secret. But she knew she couldn't. Not yet. This test, as misguided as it might be, wasn't just about Jake's feelings for her. It was about her own journey of self-discovery, of understanding who she was beyond the Sinclair name and fortune. "Thank you, Jake," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "That means more to me than you know, but I need more time." "Can you give me that?" Jake nodded, though the worry didn't leave his eyes. "Of course," he said. "Just be safe, okay? And know that I'm here whenever you're ready." As Jake turned to leave, Olivia felt as if a piece of her heart was walking away with him. She watched his retreating figure until he disappeared around a corner, fighting the urge to call him back. That night, as Olivia lay in her small bed in her modest apartment, she found herself at a crossroads. The encounter with Jake had shaken her, forcing her to confront the reality of what she was doing. Was this deception worth the pain it was causing? And even if Jake's love proved true, would it be enough to overcome the breach of trust this test represented? As sleep finally claimed her, Olivia's dreams were filled with images of her two lives, the glittering world she had left behind, and the simpler, harder existence she now inhabited. Somewhere in between, she knew, lay the truth of who she really was. The question was, would she be brave enough to embrace it when the time came? The weeks following Olivia's encounter with Jake passed in a blur of conflicting emotions. Each day brought new challenges, both at work and in her personal life, as she struggled to maintain her facade while grappling with the consequences of her deception. At Joe's Corner Cafe, Olivia found herself settling into a routine. Her hands no longer shook when handling the espresso machine, and she could recite the menu in her sleep. The regulars had grown fond of her, appreciating her quiet efficiency and gentle smile. But beneath her calm exterior, a storm was brewing. One particularly busy afternoon, as Olivia juggled multiple orders, she overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. "I'm telling you it was her," a familiar voice insisted. Olivia glanced up to see Veronica, seated at a corner table with another woman she recognized as Melissa, another friend from her old life. Olivia Sinclair, working as a waitress in this dump. "Can you believe it?" Melissa's eyes widened in disbelief. "No way. Olivia would never... her father would never allow it. There must be some mistake." Veronica shook her head vehemently. "I know what I saw. It was definitely her, even with that horrible haircut. Something weird is going on, and I intend to find out what." Olivia's heart raced as she pretended to be engrossed in wiping down the counter. She had hoped Veronica would let the matter drop after their last encounter, but it seemed her old friend was more persistent than she had anticipated. "Hey, Liv, you okay?" Alex's voice cut through her panic. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Olivia forced a smile. "I'm fine, just a little tired. Thanks for asking, Alex." As she spoke, she couldn't help but notice the concern in Alex's eyes. Over the past weeks, he had become a steadfast friend, always ready with a kind word or a helping hand when the job got overwhelming. There was a simplicity to their friendship that Olivia found refreshing, so different from the complex social dynamics of her old world. "Listen," Alex said, lowering his voice, "a bunch of us are going out for drinks after work. Why don't you join us? You look like you could use some fun." Olivia hesitated. She had been keeping to herself outside of work, afraid of forming attachments that might complicate her situation. But the thought of spending another evening alone in her tiny apartment, wrestling with her thoughts, was unbearable. "You know what? That sounds great," she said, surprising herself with her enthusiasm. As her shift ended, and she left with Alex and a few other co-workers, Olivia felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. For a few hours, she could just be Olivia, the waitress from Joe's Corner Cafe, enjoying a night out with friends. The bar they went to was a far cry from the upscale lounges Olivia was used to. It was a small, dimly lit place with mismatched furniture and walls covered in old movie posters. But as the night wore on, Olivia found herself relaxing, laughing at her co-workers' jokes and sharing stories about difficult customers. "So, Liv," one of her co-workers, a bubbly girl named Jess, asked during a lull in the conversation, "what's your story? How did you end up at Joe's?" Olivia froze for a moment, her rehearsed backstory suddenly escaping her. But before she could fumble for an answer, Alex jumped in. "Come on, Jess," he said lightly. "We all ended up at Joe's the same way. We needed a job and Joe was hiring. No need to make it complicated." Jess laughed and the conversation moved on, but Olivia shot Alex a grateful look. He winked at her in response, and Olivia felt a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the beer she was drinking. As the night progressed, Olivia found herself opening up more than she had in weeks. She talked about her dreams, her fears, her hopes for the future, all carefully edited to fit her new identity, but genuine in a way that surprised her. These people, who knew nothing of her wealth or her family name, seemed to like her for who she was, not what she represented. It was nearly midnight when they finally left the bar, the cool night air a refreshing contrast to the warmth inside. As they said their goodbyes, Alex offered to walk Olivia home. "Hi, you don't have to do that," Olivia protested weakly, even as she felt a flutter of anticipation in her stomach. Alex shrugged, a crooked smile on his face. "I know, but I want to." They walked in comfortable silence for a while, the streets quiet except for the distant sound of traffic. Olivia found herself stealing glances at Alex, noticing the way the streetlights cast shadows on his face, highlighting his strong jawline and kind eyes. "Thanks for inviting me out tonight," Olivia said softly as they approached her building. "I didn't realize how much I needed it." Alex turned to her, his expression serious. "Liv, I hope you know that you can count on us. On me. I don't know what you're running from or why you always seem so sad, but you're not alone, okay?" Olivia felt tears pricking at her eyes, overwhelmed by the sincerity in Alex's voice. Without thinking, she stepped forward and hugged him tightly. Alex hesitated for a moment before wrapping his arms around her, holding her close. For a moment, Olivia allowed herself to imagine a different life, one where she was just Olivia, the waitress, free to pursue a relationship with a kind, hard-working man like Alex. No complications, no deceptions, no tests. But as they pulled apart, reality came crashing back. She wasn't just Olivia. She was Olivia Sinclair, heiress to a fortune, girlfriend to Jake, daughter of Raymond Sinclair. And she was living a lie. "Good night, Alex," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for everything." As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Olivia's mind was in turmoil. She had started this journey to prove Jake's love and discover herself, but now she found herself more confused than ever. The simple life she had been living, the genuine connections she had made, were they any less real because they were based on a false premise? Lying in bed that night, Olivia stared at the ceiling, her thoughts a jumbled mess. She thought of Jake, still waiting for her, still loving her despite her unexplained absence. She thought of her father, orchestrating this elaborate test out of a misguided attempt to protect her. She thought of Alex, offering friendship, and perhaps something more, without any knowledge of her true identity. As sleep finally claimed her, Olivia realized that the winds of change were blowing through her life. The carefully constructed walls between her old life and new were beginning to crumble, and she would soon have to face the consequences of her deception. What she didn't know was that the biggest challenge was yet to come, and it would force her to question everything she thought she knew about herself, her relationships, and the very nature of love and identity. The morning after her night out with her co-workers, Olivia woke to an insistent knocking on her apartment door. Groggily, she stumbled out of bed, wondering who could be visiting her at this early hour. As she opened the door, she found herself face to face with Maria, her father's assistant who had helped with her transformation. The older woman's usually calm demeanor was replaced by an urgency that immediately set Olivia on edge. "Olivia," Maria said, her voice low and rushed, "you need to come with me right now. There's been a development." Panic gripped Olivia's heart. "Is it my father? Is he okay?" Maria shook her head. "Your father is fine, but there's something you need to see. Get dressed quickly, please." As they drove through the city in Maria's nondescript sedan, Olivia's mind raced with possibilities. Had her cover been blown? Was the charade over? To her surprise, they pulled up in front of a modest brownstone in Brooklyn. Maria led her inside and up to a small apartment on the 3rd floor. As they entered, Olivia gasped in shock. The walls of the apartment were covered in newspaper clippings, photographs, and handwritten notes. At the center of it all was a large corkboard with a timeline meticulously constructed with red string and pushpins. "What is all this?" Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Maria sighed heavily. "This is Jake's apartment. He's been investigating your disappearance." Olivia's eyes widened as she took in the extent of Jake's efforts. There were maps with possible locations marked, lists of people to contact, even surveillance photos of her father's office building. "He's been working tirelessly to find you," Maria explained. "Your father has been keeping tabs on him, making sure he doesn't get too close to the truth. But last night Jake made a breakthrough." She pointed to a recent addition to the timeline. It was a photo of Olivia at Joe's Corner Cafe, clearly taken without her knowledge. Beneath it was a note. "Found her. What game is she playing?" Olivia felt her knees go weak. "He knows," she whispered. "He's figured it out." Maria nodded grimly. "Your father is concerned. He believes Jake's persistence proves his love for you, but he's worried about what might happen when Jake confronts you with the truth." As Olivia stared at the evidence of Jake's devotion, a memory surfaced, a conversation she had overheard years ago between her parents before their bitter divorce. She had been young, no more than 10, hiding behind a door as her parents argued in hushed tones. "You can't keep testing people like this, Raymond," her mother had said, her voice thick with emotion. "Your paranoia is going to cost you everything you hold dear." "I'm protecting us," her father had insisted. "You don't understand the lengths people will go to for money and power. And you don't understand the damage you're doing," her mother had shot back. "One day you'll push too far, and you'll lose the very people you're trying to protect." The memory faded, leaving Olivia with a newfound understanding of her father's motivations. This wasn't just about testing Jake. It was about her father's deep-seated fear of betrayal, a fear that had cost him his marriage and was now threatening to cost him his relationship with his daughter. "What do I do now?" Olivia asked, turning to Maria. The older woman's eyes softened with sympathy. "That's up to you, my dear. Your father's test has taken on a life of its own. The question is, what do you want? Who is the real Olivia Sinclair?" As Olivia left Jake's apartment, her mind was in turmoil. She walked aimlessly through the streets of Brooklyn, barely noticing her surroundings. The weight of her deception, the complexity of her father's fears, and the depth of Jake's love all pressed down on her, demanding resolution. Without realizing it, she found herself in front of Joe's Corner Cafe. Through the window, she could see Alex laughing with a customer, his easy smile and kind eyes a stark contrast to the turmoil she felt inside. In that moment, Olivia realized that she had a decision to make. She could continue living this double life, torn between her old world and the new one she had created. Or she could take control of her own story, confront the truth and forge a path forward on her own terms. As she stood there, caught between two worlds, Olivia knew that whatever choice she made would change her life forever. The echoes of the past, her father's fears, her mother's warnings, Jake's devotion, all swirled around her, but the voice she needed to listen to now was her own. With a deep breath, Olivia squared her shoulders and pushed open the door to the cafe. The familiar jingle of the bell above the door seemed to signal the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Alex looked up as she entered, his smile faltering as he took in her serious expression. "Liv, is everything okay?" Olivia met his gaze, feeling a surge of affection for this man who had become such an important part of her new life. "Alex," she said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her heart, "there's something I need to tell you about who I really am." As the words left her lips, Olivia felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. The truth, with all its complications and consequences, was about to come out. And for the first time since this whole charade began, Olivia felt truly free. What she didn't know was that her decision to come clean would set in motion a chain of events that would test not only her relationships, but also her very understanding of love, loyalty, and identity. The game her father had started was about to reach its climax, and Olivia would soon discover that the greatest challenge wasn't proving Jake's love or finding herself. It was reconciling all the different parts of who she was and who she wanted to be. As she sat down with Alex, preparing to reveal her true identity, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger story. The echoes of the past were about to collide with the realities of the present, and the future that would emerge was anyone's guess. The cafe seemed to grow quieter as Olivia sat across from Alex, her heart pounding in her chest. The usual bustle of customers and the clinking of cups faded into the background as she prepared to reveal the truth that had been burning inside her for weeks. "Alex," Olivia began, her voice barely above a whisper, "what I'm about to tell you might change the way you see me, but I need you to know that my friendship with you and everyone else here has been real. It's probably the most real thing in my life right now." Alex's brow furrowed with concern. He reached across the table, gently placing his hand over hers. "Liv, whatever it is, you can tell me. I'm here for you." Taking a deep breath, Olivia began her story. She told him about her true identity as Olivia Sinclair, heiress to the Sinclair fortune. She explained her father's test, her relationship with Jake, and the deception she had been living for the past few months. As she spoke, Olivia watched a myriad of emotions flicker across Alex's face. Surprise, confusion, hurt, and finally, a quiet understanding. When she finished, silence hung between them for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Alex spoke, his voice soft but steady. "Wow, Liv, that's a lot to take in." Olivia nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and apprehension. "I know, and I'm so sorry for lying to you, to everyone. I never meant to hurt anyone." Alex was quiet for a moment, his eyes searching hers. "I believe you," he said at last. "But I have to ask, why tell me now? Why not keep up the charade?" Olivia felt tears pricking at her eyes. "Because I can't live this lie anymore. Because you and everyone here have shown me what real friendship looks like. And because—" she hesitated, her voice catching, "because I think I'm falling for you, Alex. And you deserve to know the truth. before things go any further. Alex's eyes widened at her confession. He pulled his hand back, running it through his hair in a gesture of frustration. Liv, I don't know what to say. I care about you too, but this is a lot to process. You have a whole other life, a boyfriend who's been searching for you. Where does that leave us? Before Olivia could respond, the cafe door burst open. Jake stood in the doorway, his eyes wild and his hair disheveled. He spotted Olivia and strode towards her, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. Olivia, he said, his voice tight with tension. We need to talk now. Olivia felt her world tilting on its axis. Her two lives were colliding in spectacular fashion, and she was caught in the middle. She looked from Jake to Alex, seeing hurt and confusion in both their eyes. Jake, she said, standing up shakily. How did you find me? Jake's laugh was bitter. I've been looking for you for weeks, Liv. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out eventually? But that's not important right now. What's important is why. Why did you disappear? Why are you pretending to be someone you're not? Olivia felt the eyes of everyone in the cafe on her. Her co-workers, the regulars, all were watching the drama unfold with a mixture of curiosity and concern. I can explain, Olivia began, but Jake cut her off. Explain? Explain how you've been lying to me, to everyone, for months? Explain why you're sitting here with this guy, he gestured angrily at Alex, while I've been going out of my mind with worry? Alex stood up, his stance protective. Hey man, calm down, this isn't the place for this. Jake turned on Alex, his eyes flashing. And who are you? Her new boyfriend? Did you know who she really was, or did she fool you too? Stop it, both of you. Olivia's voice cut through the tension. She turned to Susan, who had emerged from the back, drawn by the commotion. Susan, I'm so sorry about this. I need to go. I'll explain everything later, I promise. Without waiting for a response, Olivia pushed past Jake and Alex, hurrying out of the cafe. She heard footsteps behind her, but didn't turn around, her mind racing as she tried to figure out what to do next. She had only made it a block when she felt a hand on her arm. She turned to see both Jake and Alex had followed her. The three of them stood there on the sidewalk, a tableau of confused emotions and tangled relationships. Olivia, Jake said, his voice softer now, please, just tell me what's going on. Why did you leave? Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth? Olivia felt tears streaming down her face. It wasn't about trust, Jake. It was about figuring out who I am without all the trappings of my old life. And then it became about not wanting to hurt you, or anyone else. Alex stepped forward, his expression torn. Liv, I think you owe both of us an explanation. And maybe you owe it to yourself too. Olivia looked between the two men, Jake, who had loved her through wealth and status, and Alex, who had befriended her when she was just a struggling waitress. She realized that the truth she owed them was also the truth she needed to face herself. You're right, she said, wiping away her tears. You both deserve the whole story. And I think it's time I faced up to the consequences of my actions. As they walked to a nearby park, Olivia felt a strange sense of calm settling over her. The truth was out now, for better or worse. What happened next would depend on her ability to confront her fears, her father's manipulations, and her own conflicted heart. What Olivia didn't know was that her father, Raymond Sinclair, had been watching events unfold from afar. As he observed his daughter walking away with the two young men, he realized that his carefully orchestrated plan had spun wildly out of control. The test he had devised to protect his daughter had instead pushed her further away, and now he faced the very real possibility of losing her forever. As Olivia prepared to lay bare her soul to Jake and Alex, the stage was set for a confrontation that would change all of their lives. The truth was finally coming to light, but the consequences of that truth were yet to be seen. The park was quiet in the late afternoon sun, a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil swirling around Olivia, Jake, and Alex. They found a secluded bench away from the few people enjoying the mild weather. Olivia sat between the two men, feeling the weight of their expectations pressing down on her. Start from the beginning, Jake said softly, his anger from earlier replaced by a quiet intensity. I want to understand, Liv. Olivia took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. It all started with my father, she began, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. He wanted to test you, Jake, to see if you truly loved me for who I am, not for my family's wealth. Jake's eyes widened in disbelief. Your father? But why? I've never given him any reason to doubt me. It wasn't about you, not really, Olivia explained, the realization dawning on her as she spoke. It was about his own fears, his own past. He's been hurt before and he wanted to protect me from going through the same pain. As Olivia recounted the details of her father's plan, the transformation, and her new life, she watched the emotions play across Jake and Alex's faces. Jake looked hurt and confused, while Alex seemed to be processing the information with a mix of understanding and disappointment. So all this time, Jake said when Olivia finished, you've been living this double life, pretending to be someone else, and you never thought to tell me. Olivia felt a pang of guilt. I wanted to, Jake. So many times. But I was afraid. Afraid of hurting you, afraid of admitting that I was starting to enjoy my new life. And then, she trailed off, glancing at Alex. Alex picked up on her unspoken words. And then you started to have feelings for me, he finished for her, his voice devoid of emotion. Olivia nodded, unable to meet either man's eyes. I never meant for any of this to happen. I thought I was just going along with my father's plan, but somewhere along the way I started to discover parts of myself I never knew existed. Jake stood up abruptly, pacing in front of the bench. I can't believe this. I've been worried sick, searching for you, thinking you might be in trouble. And all this time you were just, playing house? Seeing if the grass was greener on the other side. His words stung, but Olivia knew she deserved them. It wasn't like that, Jake. I was trying to figure out who I am without all the trappings of my old life. And yes, I made mistakes. I hurt you. And I'm so sorry for that. Alex, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. And what about me, Liv? Where do I fit into all of this? Was I just part of your experiment too? Olivia turned to him, her heart aching at the pain in his eyes. No, Alex. You were never part of any plan. My friendship with you, my feelings for you, they're real. They're probably the most real thing in my life right now. The three of them sat in silence for a moment, the weight of Olivia's words hanging in the air. Finally, Jake spoke, his voice tight with emotion. I love you, Olivia. I've always loved you, with or without your family's money. But this, I don't know if I can get past this deception. Olivia felt tears welling up in her eyes. I understand, she whispered. I wouldn't blame you if you walked away right now. To her surprise, it was Alex who responded. Nobody's walking away just yet, he said firmly. We're all hurt and confused right now, but we need to think this through. Jake looked at Alex, a flicker of respect in his eyes. You're right, he admitted, but where do we go from here? Olivia, you need to make a choice. Olivia felt the weight of their gazes on her. She knew they were right. She had to make a decision. But as she opened her mouth to speak, a familiar voice cut through the tension. Perhaps the choice isn't entirely yours to make, Olivia. All three of them turned to see Raymond Sinclair standing a few feet away, his usually impeccable appearance slightly disheveled, a look of remorse on his face. Dad? Olivia gasped, rising to her feet. What are you doing here? Raymond stepped closer, his eyes moving from Olivia to Jake to Alex. I've been watching, Olivia. I've seen everything unfold, and I realize now that I've made a terrible mistake. Jake's fists clenched at his sides. You're damn right you made a mistake. Do you have any idea what you've put your daughter through? What you've put all of us through? Raymond held up a hand, a gesture of peace. I know, and I'm here to take responsibility for my actions. Olivia, I owe you an explanation and an apology. As Raymond began to speak, Olivia felt as if the final piece of a complex puzzle was falling into place. Her father recounted a story from his past, a tale of betrayal and heartbreak that had shaped his worldview and driven him to test everyone who came into their lives. I thought I was protecting you, Raymond said, his voice heavy with regret. But instead I almost lost you. I see now that my fear of you being hurt led me to hurt you myself. Olivia listened, feeling a mix of anger, understanding, and a profound sadness for the pain her father had carried for so long. As Raymond finished his story, she realized that they were all at a crossroads. The choices they made now would shape not just her future, but the futures of everyone involved. She turned to Jake, the man who had loved her through wealth and status, who had searched tirelessly for her, then to Alex, who had befriended her when she was just a struggling waitress, who had shown her a different kind of life, and finally, to her father, whose misguided actions had set this whole chain of events in motion. In that moment, Olivia knew that the decision she had to make wasn't just about choosing between two men or two lives. It was about choosing who she wanted to be, about breaking free from the fears and expectations that had shaped her life until now. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, Olivia took a deep breath. She was about to speak, to make a decision that would change everything, when she realized something important. The choice she needed to make wasn't about Jake or Alex, or even her father. It was about herself. "I need time," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Time to figure out who I am without anyone else's expectations or plans. I love you all in different ways, but I can't be true to any of you until I'm true to myself." The three men looked at her, a mixture of surprise, respect, and understanding on their faces. As Olivia stood there, feeling both terrified and exhilarated by her decision, she knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. What she didn't realize was that her choice would have far-reaching consequences, not just for her and the men in her life, but for the very fabric of the world she had always known. As she prepared to embark on a journey of self-discovery, forces were already in motion that would test her newfound resolve in ways she could never have imagined. The crossroads she stood at now was just the first of many, and the path ahead was fraught with challenges and revelations that would shake the very foundations of her world. But for the first time in her life, Olivia felt ready to face whatever came her way on her own terms. The days following Olivia's decision in the park were a whirlwind of emotions and changes. She had chosen herself, a concept so foreign yet so liberating that it left her both exhilarated and terrified. As she stood in her small apartment, packing a bag with the few possessions she had acquired during her time as a waitress, Olivia felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Maria standing there, a mixture of concern and pride on her face. "Your father sent me," Maria said softly. "He wanted to make sure you had everything you needed for your journey." Olivia felt a pang of emotion at the gesture. Despite everything, her father was still trying to look out for her, even if he was doing it from a distance. "Thank you, Maria. But I think I need to do this on my own. Really on my own this time." Maria nodded, understanding in her eyes. "He thought you might say that, but he wanted you to have this, just in case." She handed Olivia a sealed envelope. Olivia took it, feeling the weight of more than just paper in her hands. "I'll keep it with me," she promised, "but I won't use it unless I absolutely have to." As Maria left, Olivia returned to her packing, the envelope tucked safely in an inner pocket of her bag. She had made the decision to travel, to see the world not as Olivia Sinclair the heiress, or as Olivia the waitress, but as just Olivia, a young woman trying to find her place in the world. Her first stop was Joe's Corner Cafe. She owed her co-workers an explanation and a proper goodbye. As she pushed open the familiar door, the jingle of the bell above sounded different somehow, like the closing of one chapter and the opening of another. Susan looked up from behind the counter, a knowing smile on her face. "So you're really leaving us, huh?" Olivia nodded, feeling a lump form in her throat. "I am. Susan, I can't thank you enough for everything. You gave me a chance when you didn't have to, and you taught me so much more than just how to make a decent cup of coffee." Susan came around the counter and pulled Olivia into a warm hug. "You're a good kid, Olivia. Whatever your real story is, and don't think we haven't all been speculating, I hope you find what you're looking for out there." As Olivia said her goodbyes to the rest of the staff, she felt a tug of sadness. These people had become like family to her, accepting her without question and supporting her through her struggles. She would miss them more than she could express. Just as she was about to leave, Alex walked in for his shift. He stopped short when he saw her, his eyes taking in her travel clothes and the bag slung over her shoulder. "So you're really doing it," he said, his voice a mixture of admiration and regret. "You're leaving?" Olivia nodded, suddenly finding it hard to meet his gaze. "I have to, Alex. I need to figure out who I am away from everything and everyone I've known." Alex stepped closer, his voice low. "I understand. But leave. I want you to know. What I felt for you, what I still feel, it was real, no matter who you really are." Olivia felt tears pricking at her eyes. She reached out and squeezed his hand. "I know, Alex, and what I felt, what I feel, for you, is real too. But I need to do this, for myself. Alex nodded, a sad smile on his face. Just don't be a stranger, okay? Whatever you find out there, remember you've got friends here who care about you. As Olivia left the cafe, she felt as if she were leaving a piece of herself behind. But she also felt lighter somehow, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Her next stop was more difficult. She had arranged to meet Jake at a small park near her old penthouse. As she approached, she saw him sitting on a bench, his photographer's eye taking in the scene around him. "Jake," she called softly as she neared. He looked up, his eyes a storm of emotions. "Olivia," he said, standing, "you look different." Olivia smiled wryly. "I feel different," she admitted. "Jake, You don't have to explain," he interrupted. "I've had time to think, and I get it. I don't like it, but I get it." Olivia felt a rush of affection for him. This was the Jake she had fallen in love with, understanding, kind, always seeing the best in her. "I love you," she said, the words feeling both true and somehow insufficient. "But I need to do this. I need to know who I am without the Sinclair name, without being someone's girlfriend or daughter. Just me." Jake nodded, his eyes suspiciously bright. "I know, and that's why I love you, Liv. You've always been braver than you gave yourself credit for." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wrapped package. "I want you to have this. Open it when you're ready." Olivia took the package, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Jake, for everything." As they said their goodbyes, Olivia felt a chapter of her life closing. But rather than sadness, she felt a sense of anticipation for what lay ahead. Her final stop before leaving the city was her father's office. She hadn't told him she was coming, and as she rode the elevator to the top floor of Sinclair Tower, she felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. Raymond Sinclair looked up in surprise as Olivia walked into his office unannounced. For a moment, he looked like he wanted to stand, to rush to her, but he held himself back, uncertainty written across his face. "Olivia," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "I didn't expect to see you." Olivia took a deep breath. "I'm leaving, Dad. I'm going to travel, to see the world on my own terms. I came to say goodbye." Raymond's composure cracked slightly. "Olivia, I'm so sorry. For everything. I never meant to—" "I know, Dad," Olivia interrupted gently. "I know you were trying to protect me, but I need to protect myself now. I need to find out who I am without the Sinclair legacy hanging over me." Her father nodded, a look of pride and sadness warring on his face. "You're right, of course. You've always been stronger than I gave you credit for." He paused, seeming to wrestle with himself before continuing. "Olivia, whatever you find out there, whatever you decide, you'll always have a home here. You'll always be my daughter." Olivia felt tears welling up in her eyes. She crossed the room and hugged her father tightly. For a moment, she was a little girl again, safe in her daddy's arms. But as she pulled away, she knew she was leaving as a woman ready to face the world on her own terms. As Olivia left Sinclair Tower, the city stretched out before her, a world of possibilities waiting to be explored. She hailed a taxi, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. "Where to, miss?" the driver asked. Olivia paused for a moment, then smiled. "The airport, please. I've got a world to see." As the taxi pulled away from the curb, Olivia felt as if she were shedding her old self with every mile. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in her life, she was truly free to find out. What Olivia didn't realize was that her journey of self-discovery would lead her to uncover truths not just about herself, but about her family, her friends, and the very nature of identity and belonging. The echoes of her decision would ripple out, touching lives she had never even considered, and setting in motion events that would challenge everything she thought she knew about the world. As the familiar skyline of New York receded in the rearview mirror, Olivia closed her eyes, ready to embrace whatever adventures and whatever truths awaited her. The hum of the airplane engines provided a soothing backdrop as Olivia stared out the window, watching the patchwork of lights below grow smaller and smaller. She had chosen her destination almost at random, a finger placed blindly on a map in the airport terminal. Bangkok, Thailand, a world away from New York, from the life she had known. As the plane leveled off at cruising altitude, Olivia allowed herself a moment to reflect on the whirlwind of the past few days. The goodbyes, the tears, the promises to stay in touch. It all felt like a distant dream now. She reached into her bag and pulled out the 2 items she had been given before leaving: the envelope from her father and the small package from Jake. With trembling fingers, she opened the envelope first. Inside was a letter and a credit card. The letter was brief, in her father's crisp handwriting. "Olivia, I know you want to do this on your own, and I respect that. But please, keep this card with you. Use it if you ever find yourself in real trouble. No matter what happens, you're still my daughter, and I'll always be here for you. Love, Dad." Olivia felt a lump in her throat. Despite everything, her father was still trying to protect her. She tucked the card into a hidden pocket of her bag, hoping she would never need to use it, but touched by the gesture nonetheless. Next, she unwrapped Jake's package. Inside was a simple, sturdy camera. Not the high-end equipment he usually used, but a perfect travel companion. A note was attached. "Live, see the world through your own eyes, but don't forget to capture the moments that take your breath away. I can't wait to see what you discover. All my love, Jake." Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes as she held the camera. It was so quintessentially Jake, thoughtful, encouraging, and supportive, even in the face of their uncertain future. As the flight attendant came by with drinks, Olivia tucked both items safely away. She opted for water instead of her usual champagne, a small but significant choice in her new life. The flight was long, giving Olivia plenty of time to think. She found herself wondering about the life she had left behind. How was Alex doing at the cafe? Was her father throwing himself into work to avoid dealing with her absence? And Jake? Was he out there somewhere, capturing the world through his lens, thinking of her? But as the hours ticked by, Olivia felt her old life receding, like a tide pulling away from the shore. By the time the captain announced their descent into Bangkok, she felt ready to embrace whatever came next. The heat and humidity hit Olivia like a wall as she stepped out of the airport. The cacophony of sounds, the riot of colors, the unfamiliar smells. It was all overwhelmingly foreign and thrilling. For a moment, she felt a pang of fear. What was she doing here, halfway across the world alone? But then she remembered the strength that had brought her this far. She hailed a taxi, showing the driver the address of a modest guest house she had booked online. As they weaved through the chaotic Bangkok traffic, Olivia found herself mesmerized by the city unfolding around her. The guest house was small but clean, tucked away in a quiet side street. The owner, a kind-faced Thai woman named Somchai, greeted Olivia warmly. "First time in Bangkok?" Somchai asked as she showed Olivia to her room. Olivia nodded. "First time anywhere, really. I'm starting over, I guess you could say." Somchai's eyes twinkled with understanding. "Ah, we get many like you here, searching for something or running from something, sometimes both." As Olivia settled into her room, she pondered Somchai's words. Was she searching or running? Perhaps a bit of both, she realized. The next few days passed in a blur of new experiences. Olivia wandered the bustling streets, sampled street food that set her taste buds on fire, and attempted to navigate the complex public transportation system. She used Jake's camera to capture moments that caught her eye. A group of monks in saffron robes, a vendor arranging vibrant tropical fruits, the glittering spires of a temple at sunset. It was on her 3rd day in Bangkok that Olivia had her first real test of independence. She had decided to visit the famous floating markets and confidently set out early in the morning. But somewhere along the way she took a wrong turn. The familiar landmarks disappeared, replaced by narrow alleys and suspicious looks from locals. Panic began to set in as Olivia realized she was thoroughly lost. Her phone's battery was dead, and she couldn't read any of the signs around her. For a moment she thought about the credit card her father had given her. One call and she could be whisked away from this situation, back to the safety and comfort of her old life. But as quickly as the thought came, Olivia pushed it away. This was exactly the kind of situation she needed to learn to handle on her own. Taking a deep breath, she approached an elderly woman tending to a small flower stall. With a combination of broken Thai phrases she had learned, exaggerated gestures, and the universal language of smiles, Olivia managed to convey her predicament. The woman's weathered face broke into a kind smile. She called out to a young boy playing nearby, rattled off some instructions in Thai, and then turned back to Olivia with a nod. The boy, who couldn't have been more than 12, grinned at Olivia and gestured for her to follow. He led her through a maze of back alleys, chattering away in Thai that Olivia couldn't understand, but found comforting nonetheless. Finally, they emerged onto a main street that Olivia recognized. Olivia's relief was palpable. She thanked the boy profusely, pressing a handful of baht into his palm despite his protests. As she watched him scamper off, Olivia felt a surge of accomplishment. She had faced a challenge and overcome it, not as Olivia Sinclair, the heiress, but as just Olivia, a traveler finding her way. That night, as Olivia sat on the small balcony of her guest house room, she found herself reflecting on her journey so far. She had only been gone a few days, but already she felt changed. The girl who had lived in a penthouse and never had to worry about anything seemed like a distant memory. Olivia pulled out her journal, another new habit she had picked up, and began to write. She wrote about the sights and sounds of Bangkok, about getting lost and finding her way, about the kindness of strangers and the thrill of independence. But mostly, she wrote about the person she was becoming, someone braver, more resilient, and more alive than she had ever been before. As she wrote, Olivia felt a sense of excitement building inside her. This was just the beginning of her journey, both around the world and into herself. There would be more challenges ahead, more moments of doubt and fear, but for the first time in her life, Olivia felt truly ready to face them. What she didn't know was that her journey was about to take an unexpected turn. Thousands of miles away, events were unfolding that would soon pull her back into the world she had left behind. The echoes of her past were not done with her yet, and the true test of her newfound independence was still to come. But for now, in the warm Bangkok night, Olivia closed her journal with a sense of peace. Whatever came next, she would face it as the person she was becoming, strong, independent, and finally truly herself. As she drifted off to sleep, lulled by the unfamiliar sounds of the city, Olivia dreamed of uncharted waters and endless possibilities. The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in her life, uncertainty felt like freedom. The weeks in Bangkok had flown by in a whirlwind of new experiences and self-discovery for Olivia. She had settled into a routine of sorts, volunteering at a local English language center in the mornings, exploring the city in the afternoons, and spending her evenings writing in her journal or chatting with fellow travelers at the guest house. On this particular morning, Olivia found herself in a bustling market, haggling over the price of a colorful scarf. She had picked up enough Thai to engage in basic conversations, and she felt a thrill of pride as she successfully negotiated a fair price. As she tucked her purchase into her bag, a familiar voice cut through the market's cacophony. "Olivia? Olivia Sinclair." She froze, her heart racing. Slowly she turned to face the source of the voice. Standing there, looking as shocked as she felt, was Charles Winthrop, her father's longtime business associate and a fixture in the New York social scene she had left behind. "Mr. Winthrop," Olivia managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "What a..." Surprise. Charles's surprise quickly gave way to a warm smile. "My goodness, Olivia, your father has been worried sick. What on earth are you doing in Bangkok? And..." He glanced at her simple clothes and tanned skin. "Like this?" Olivia felt a moment of panic. Her carefully constructed new life was colliding with her past in a way she hadn't anticipated. But as she looked at Charles's genuinely concerned face, she made a split-second decision, to be honest. "It's a long story, Mr. Winthrop," she said with a small smile. "Would you like to grab a coffee? I'll explain everything." Over iced coffees at a nearby cafe, Olivia shared her story, her father's test, her time as a waitress, and her decision to travel and find herself. Charles listened intently, his expression shifting from shock to understanding and finally to admiration. "I must say, Olivia, I'm impressed," he said when she finished. "It takes a great deal of courage to step away from everything you've known and forge your own path." Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It felt good to share her story with someone from her old life, to have her journey validated. "Thank you, Mr. Winthrop. It hasn't been easy, but I feel like I'm finally figuring out who I am." Charles nodded thoughtfully. "Your father will be relieved to know you're safe. He's been, well, let's just say the office hasn't been the same since you left." A pang of guilt shot through Olivia. "How is he, really?" Charles's expression softened. "He's struggling, Olivia. I think he regrets the whole situation deeply. But he's also proud of you, even if he doesn't know how to express it." As they continued to talk, Charles mentioned that he was in Bangkok for a potential business deal, a merger with a local tech startup that could revolutionize the Sinclair company's Asian market presence. "Actually," Charles said, a glint in his eye, "given your unique perspective now, I wonder if you might be interested in offering some insights on the local market. Purely as a consultant, of course. Your father doesn't need to know." Olivia hesitated. On one hand, it felt like a step back towards her old life. On the other, it was an opportunity to use her new experiences in a meaningful way. I'll think about it," she said finally. "Can I let you know tomorrow?" Charles agreed, and as they parted ways, Olivia felt a mix of emotions churning inside her. The encounter had stirred up feelings she thought she had left behind: longing for her father, curiosity about the business world she had known all her life, and a nagging doubt about the path she had chosen. That evening, as Olivia sat on her guest house balcony, she found herself at a crossroads. She pulled out her phone, a new basic model she had bought in Bangkok, and stared at it, debating whether to make a call she had been avoiding for weeks. Finally, taking a deep breath, she dialed Jake's number. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Just as Olivia was about to hang up, convinced it was a mistake, Jake's voice came through. "Hello? Olivia?" The sound of his voice, familiar yet somehow distant, brought tears to Olivia's eyes. "Jake," she said softly, "it's me." There was a moment of silence, heavy with unspoken words. Then Jake spoke, his voice a mixture of relief and caution. "Liv, it's so good to hear your voice. Are you okay? Where are you?" Olivia found herself pouring out everything: her experiences in Bangkok, her encounter with Charles Winthrop, her conflicted feelings about the consulting offer. Jake listened patiently, offering words of encouragement and support. "Liv," he said when she finished, "you've come so far. Don't let fear of your old life hold you back from new opportunities. If you think this consulting gig could be valuable, go for it. Just don't lose sight of why you left in the first place." His words resonated with Olivia, reminding her of why she had fallen in love with him in the first place. "Thank you, Jake. I've missed your perspective on things." As they talked, Olivia felt a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that moving forward didn't mean completely cutting ties with her past. It meant integrating her old life with the new person she was becoming. The next morning, Olivia met Charles Winthrop with a clear mind and a confident smile. "I'll do it," she said. "I'll consult on the merger. But on one condition: all the money I earn goes to the English Language Center where I've been volunteering." Charles beamed, clearly impressed by her decision. "Done. Welcome aboard, Miss Sinclair." As Olivia dove into the project, she felt a new chapter of her journey beginning. She was no longer running from her past, but learning to embrace it as part of her evolving identity. The experiences of the past weeks had given her a unique perspective that proved invaluable in navigating the complex cultural dynamics of the merger. What Olivia didn't realize was that her decision to dip her toe back into the business world would have far-reaching consequences. Ripples from her past were spreading, setting in motion events that would soon challenge everything she thought she knew about herself, her family, and the world she had left behind. As she worked late into the night, poring over market reports and cultural analyses, Olivia felt a sense of excitement building. She was forging a new path, one that combined the best of both worlds. But the true test of her newfound strength and identity was yet to come, lurking just beyond the horizon of her current success. The Bangkok sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and pink as Olivia made her way back to her guest house. She was exhausted but exhilarated after a long day of meetings and negotiations for the merger project. As she walked, she couldn't help but reflect on how much her life had changed in just a few short months. Her phone buzzed with a message from Alex. "Hope you're having an amazing adventure, Liv. The cafe misses you." "So do I." Olivia smiled, a warm feeling spreading through her chest. She had been keeping in touch with Alex, sharing snippets of her travels and hearing about life back at Joe's Corner Cafe. Their friendship had evolved into something deeper, a connection that transcended distance and circumstance. As she replied to Alex's message, Olivia's phone began to ring. The screen displayed a number she didn't recognize, with a New York area code. Curiosity piqued, she answered. "Hello? Olivia, it's Maria." The voice of her father's assistant was tense, urgent. "I'm sorry to bother you, but there's been an incident. Your father, he's in the hospital." Olivia felt the world tilt beneath her feet. What? What happened? Is he okay? Maria's voice cracked slightly. He collapsed during a board meeting. The doctors say it was a heart attack. He's stable, but... Olivia, he's asking for you. A whirlwind of emotions swept through Olivia. Fear, concern, and a surprising surge of homesickness. I'm on my way, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Tell him I'm coming home. The next few hours passed in a blur. Olivia called Charles Winthrop, explaining the situation. He was understanding and supportive, assuring her that the project was in good hands and urging her to focus on her family. As Olivia packed her bags, her mind raced with conflicting thoughts. She had come so far in her journey of self-discovery, found a new sense of purpose and independence. Would returning home undo all of that progress? But as she zipped up her backpack, now filled with mementos of her travels and experiences, Olivia realized something important. She wasn't the same person who had left New York all those months ago. She was returning not as the sheltered heiress, but as a woman who had faced challenges, made her own way and discovered her own strength. The flight back to New York was long and fraught with anxiety. Olivia alternated between fitful naps and staring out the window, watching the world pass beneath her. She thought about her father, about the complicated relationship they shared, about the misguided test that had set her on this journey. As the plane began its descent into JFK, Olivia felt a strange mix of familiarity and foreignness. The New York skyline, once so commonplace, now seemed both welcoming and intimidating. She had barely stepped off the plane when she saw a familiar face waiting for her at the gate. Jake stood there, looking tired but relieved to see her. "Jake," Olivia breathed, rushing into his arms. For a moment, all the complications of their relationship faded away, and she was just grateful for the comfort of a familiar embrace. "I'm here, Liv," Jake said softly, holding her tight. "Let's get you to the hospital." The drive to the hospital was quiet, both of them lost in their thoughts. Olivia stared out the window, taking in the familiar sights of the city she had called home for so long. It felt like years had passed, not months. As they approached the hospital, Jake broke the silence. "Liv, I know this isn't the best time, but I'm glad you're back. Whatever happens, whatever you decide after this, I want you to know I'm here for you." Olivia turned to him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. "Thank you, Jake. That means more than you know." The hospital corridor seemed endless as Olivia made her way to her father's room. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of fear and anticipation making her palms sweat. She paused at the door, taking a deep breath to steady herself. Then, squaring her shoulders, she pushed it open. Raymond Sinclair lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller and more vulnerable than Olivia had ever seen him. Machines beeped steadily around him, monitoring his vital signs. As the door opened, he turned his head, his eyes lighting up as he saw his daughter. "Olivia," he said, his voice weak but filled with emotion. "You came." Olivia felt tears welling up in her eyes as she rushed to his bedside. "Of course I came, Dad. I'm here." As she took her father's hand, Olivia felt the walls she had built around her heart begin to crumble. All the anger, the hurt, the confusion of the past months seemed to fade away, replaced by a simple truth. This was her father, and she loved him. "I'm so sorry, Olivia," Raymond said, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "For everything. The test, the lies, the manipulation. I thought I was protecting you, but I was only pushing you away." Olivia squeezed his hand gently. "I know, Dad, and I'm sorry too. I should have talked to you instead of running away. But I'm not sorry for the journey I've been on. I've learned so much about myself, about the world." Raymond managed a small smile. "Tell me about it. Tell me everything." And so, sitting by her father's hospital bed, Olivia began to share her experiences. She told him about her time as a waitress, about the friends she had made at Joe's Corner Cafe. She described the bustling streets of Bangkok, the kindness of strangers, the challenges she had overcome. As she spoke, Olivia could see a change coming over her father. The hard edges of the business tycoon softened, replaced by genuine interest and pride in his daughter's accomplishments. "You've grown so much," Raymond said when she finished. "You're not my little girl anymore. You're a strong, independent woman, and I couldn't be prouder." Olivia felt a weight she hadn't even realized she was carrying lift from her shoulders. For the first time in years, perhaps ever, She felt truly seen and understood by her father. As they continued to talk, Olivia realized that coming home didn't mean giving up her newfound independence. It meant bringing the strength and wisdom she had gained back to her old life, transforming it into something new and beautiful. What Olivia didn't know was that her return to New York would set in motion a series of events that would test her in ways she could never have imagined. The lessons she had learned on her journey were about to be put to the ultimate test, as forces beyond her control threatened to unravel everything she had built. As she sat with her father, watching the New York sunset through the hospital window, Olivia felt a sense of calm determination settle over her. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. Not as Olivia Sinclair the heiress, not as Olivia the traveler, but as the woman she had become, a blend of both worlds and experiences. The echoes of home had called her back, but the journey was far from over. In fact, Olivia realized it was only just beginning. The days following Raymond Sinclair's hospitalization were a whirlwind of activity for Olivia. As her father recovered, she found herself thrust back into the world she had left behind, but with a new perspective that colored every interaction. On this particular morning, Olivia stood in front of her old closet, staring at the designer clothes that once defined her. She ran her hand over the soft fabrics, remembering the girl who had worn them without a second thought. With a small smile, she pushed them aside and reached for the simple, practical clothes she had brought back from her travels. As she dressed, her phone buzzed with a message from Jake. "Coffee at our old spot? I'd love to catch up properly." Olivia hesitated for a moment before replying with a simple yes. Her feelings for Jake were complicated now, tangled up with her experiences and the person she had become. The cafe where they met was a far cry from Joe's Corner Cafe, all sleek lines and artisanal brews. As Olivia entered, she saw Jake already seated, his camera bag by his side. He stood as she approached, his eyes taking in her changed appearance. "Liv," he said softly, pulling her into a gentle hug. "It's good to see you." As they sat down, Olivia felt the weight of unspoken words between them. Jake broke the silence first. "How's your dad doing?" "Better," Olivia replied, gratitude evident in her voice. "The doctors say he'll make a full recovery, but he needs to make some lifestyle changes." Jake nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "And how about you? How are you handling being back?" Olivia took a sip of her coffee, considering her words carefully. "It's strange. Everything looks the same, but it all feels different. Or maybe I'm the one who's different." "You are," Jake said, his eyes warm with admiration. "I can see it. You carry yourself differently now. More confident. More you." His words touched Olivia deeply. This was why she had fallen in love with Jake in the first place. His ability to see her. Truly see her. "Jake, Olivia began, but was cut off by a commotion at the cafe entrance. "Olivia Sinclair, is that really you?" Olivia turned to see Veronica and Melissa, her old friends from her socialite days, approaching their table. Their eyes were wide with a mixture of shock and curiosity. "Oh my God, Liv, we've been so worried," Veronica exclaimed, pulling Olivia into a perfumed embrace. "Where have you been? And what happened to your hair?" Olivia felt a moment of panic as her old world and new collided. She glanced at Jake, who gave her an encouraging nod. Taking a deep breath, Olivia decided to embrace honesty. "It's a long story," she said, gesturing for her friends to join them. "But I'd love to tell you about it." Over the next hour, Olivia shared her experiences, her time as a waitress, her travels in Bangkok, the lessons she had learned about herself and the world. As she spoke, she could see the surprise and, gradually, the respect growing in her friends' eyes. "Wow, Liv," Melissa said when she finished. "I can't believe you did all that. It sounds amazing." Veronica nodded, a hint of envy in her voice. "I wish I had the courage to do something like that, to just leave everything behind and find myself." Olivia smiled, touched by their reactions. "It wasn't easy," she admitted, "but it was worth it. I feel like I finally know who I am beyond just being a Sinclair." As they continued to chat, Olivia felt a strange sense of worlds merging. Here she was, sitting with Jake and her old friends, sharing stories of her new life. It wasn't perfect or seamless, but it felt right. Their conversation was interrupted by Olivia's phone ringing. It was Charles Winthrop. "Olivia," he said when she answered, his voice urgent. I hate to bother you, but there's a situation with the Bangkok merger. The local partners are threatening to pull out unless we can resolve some cultural misunderstandings. We need your insight." Olivia felt a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. This was a chance to prove herself, to show that her experiences had real value in the business world. "I'm on my way," she said, gathering her things. She turned to Jake and her friends. "I'm sorry, but I have to go. Work emergency." As she hurried out of the cafe, Olivia felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. She was no longer just Raymond Sinclair's daughter, playing at being a businesswoman. She was Olivia Sinclair, bringing her unique perspective and hard-won knowledge to solve real problems. The Sinclair Tower loomed before her, a familiar sight that now held new meaning. As she rode the elevator to the executive floor, Olivia steeled herself for the challenge ahead. The boardroom was tense when she entered, filled with executives looking stressed and out of their depth. Charles Winthrop's face lit up with relief when he saw her. "Gentlemen," he said, "I'd like you to meet our secret weapon. Olivia Sinclair has been on the ground in Bangkok, and she has insights that could save this deal." All eyes turned to Olivia. For a moment, she felt a flicker of self-doubt. Then she remembered the girl who had navigated the bustling streets of Bangkok, who had connected with people across language and cultural barriers. Taking a deep breath, Olivia stepped forward. "Thank you, Mr. Winthrop. Let's start by discussing the concept of Kreng Jai in Thai culture and how it's affecting our negotiations." As Olivia began to speak, laying out her observations and suggestions, she could see the room transforming. The tension eased, replaced by engagement and hope. She drew on her experiences, not just the business aspects but the human connections she had made, to bridge the gap between the New York executives and their Thai counterparts. Hours later, as the sun set over the New York skyline, a deal was struck. The merger was saved with terms that respected both parties' needs and cultural values. As the room emptied, Charles approached Olivia, beaming with pride. "That was incredible, Olivia. Your father would be so proud." Olivia felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. "Thank you, Mr. Winthrop. I'm just glad I could help." As she gathered her things to leave, Olivia's phone buzzed with a message from Alex. "Hope your day was amazing, Liv. The cafe's not the same without you, but I'm happy you're finding your way." Olivia smiled, feeling a pang of nostalgia for her time at Joe's Corner Cafe. She typed out a quick reply, promising to visit soon. As she left Sinclair Tower, Olivia felt a sense of accomplishment, unlike anything she had experienced before. She had faced a challenge head-on, drawing on all aspects of herself: the heiress, the traveler, the waitress, the friend. For the first time, she felt truly whole. What Olivia didn't realize was that her success today was just the beginning. The worlds she had been straddling were about to collide in ways she couldn't imagine, testing her newfound strength and identity in ways she never expected. The real challenge was yet to come, lurking just around the corner, ready to shake the foundations of everything she thought she knew. As she hailed a taxi to head home, Olivia looked up at the New York sky, a mix of fading sunlight and emerging stars. She felt ready for whatever came next, confident in the woman she had become. Little did she know, the universe had other plans, and the biggest test of her journey was about to begin. The following weeks were a balancing act for Olivia, as she navigated her new role in the family business, while trying to maintain the independence she had fought so hard to achieve. Her father, still recovering at home, had given her more responsibility in the company, trusting her newfound wisdom and experience. On this particular evening, Olivia found herself at a crossroads, both literally and figuratively. She stood at the intersection of two streets, one leading to the upscale restaurant where Jake waited to celebrate her recent success, the other towards the subway that would take her to Joe's Corner Cafe, where she had promised to visit Alex and her former co-workers. As she hesitated, her phone buzzed with a message from her father. "Proud of you, sweetheart. You've grown into an amazing woman. Don't forget the board meeting tomorrow." Olivia smiled at the message, feeling a warmth in her chest. Her relationship with her father had evolved, becoming one of mutual respect and understanding. But with that came new pressures and expectations. With a deep breath, Olivia made her decision. She turned towards the subway, sending a quick apologetic text to Jake. She needed to reconnect with the part of herself that had flourished during her time as a waitress. The familiar jingle of the bell above the door of Joe's Corner Cafe brought a flood of memories, as Olivia stepped inside. The smell of coffee and freshly baked pastries enveloped her, and for a moment she was transported back to simpler times. "Liv!" Alex's voice cut through her reverie. He rushed from behind the counter, enveloping her in a warm hug. "I can't believe you're really here." As Alex pulled back, Olivia could see the mix of emotions in his eyes: joy, affection, and a hint of something deeper. She felt a flutter in her stomach, a reminder of the connection they had shared. "I promised I'd come, didn't I?" Olivia said with a smile. "I've missed this place, missed all of you." Soon, Olivia found herself surrounded by her former co-workers, all eager to hear about her adventures and her new life. As she shared stories of Bangkok and her recent business success, Olivia felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced since returning to New York. Later, as the cafe was closing up, Olivia found herself alone with Alex, helping him wipe down tables out of habit. "You know," Alex said, a teasing glint in his eye, "for a high-powered businesswoman, you still make a pretty good waitress." Olivia laughed, flicking her cloth at him playfully. "Once a waitress, always a waitress, I guess. This place, it'll always be a part of me." Alex's expression softened. "And what about the people? Will they always be a part of you too?" The question hung in the air between them, laden with unspoken emotions. Olivia felt her heart race as she met Alex's gaze. "Alex, Her words were cut off by the ringing of her phone. It was Jake. "Liv, where are you? Is everything okay?" Jake's voice was tinged with worry. Guilt washed over Olivia as she realized how late it had gotten. "Jake, I'm so sorry. I lost track of time. I'm at Joe's cafe." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "You're with Alex, aren't you?" Jake's voice was quiet, resigned. "Jake, it's not... I just needed to..." "It's okay, Liv," Jake interrupted. "I understand. More than you know. We need to talk. Can you meet me at the park near your old apartment? The one where we used to watch the sunrise." Olivia agreed, a sense of foreboding settling in her stomach. She turned to Alex, who had been pretending not to listen to her conversation. "I have to go," she said softly. "But Alex, thank you for tonight, for reminding me of who I am." Alex nodded, his eyes filled with understanding and a hint of sadness. "Anytime, Liv. You know where to find us." As Olivia left the cafe, she felt torn between two worlds, two versions of herself, two men who represented different aspects of her life. The cool night air did little to clear her confused thoughts as she made her way to the park. She found Jake sitting on their favorite bench, his camera in his hands. As she approached, he looked up, a sad smile on his face. "Hey, Liv," he said softly. "Beautiful night, isn't it?" Olivia sat beside him, her heart heavy. "Jake, I'm so sorry about dinner. Jake held up a hand, stopping her. "Liv, you don't have to explain. I think we both know what's happening here." Olivia felt tears pricking at her eyes. "What do you mean?" Jake turned to her, his eyes filled with a mixture of love and resignation. "You've changed, Liv. The girl I fell in love with, and she's still there, but she's part of something bigger now. Something I'm not sure I fit into anymore." "Jake, no," Olivia protested, even as she felt the truth of his words. "You've been there for me through everything. You supported me when I left. You were here when I came back. And I'll always be here for you, Liv," Jake said, taking her hand. "But not as your boyfriend. You need to be free to become the person you're meant to be, without worrying about me, or Alex, or anyone else holding you back." Olivia felt tears streaming down her face. "I do love you, Jake," she whispered. Jake smiled, wiping away her tears gently. "I know, and I love you. But sometimes love means knowing when to let go." As they sat there, watching the first hints of dawn color the sky, Olivia felt a chapter of her life closing. But rather than sadness, she felt a strange sense of peace. Jake had given her the greatest gift, the freedom to be truly herself. What Olivia didn't realize was that this moment of clarity and closure was setting the stage for her greatest challenge yet. As she said goodbye to Jake, accepting the end of their romantic relationship, but the continuation of their deep friendship, forces were aligning that would soon test everything she had learned about herself, her family, and the business world she was now a part of. The sun rose over New York City, bathing Olivia and Jake in soft golden light. As they shared one last embrace, Olivia felt ready to face whatever came next. She had navigated the crossroads of her heart, making a choice that was true to the woman she had become. But as she walked away from the park, her phone buzzed with a message that would set in motion a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of her world. The real test of Olivia Sinclair was about to begin, and it would require every ounce of strength, wisdom, and courage she had gained on her journey. The city awakened around her, a new day dawning, full of possibilities and hidden challenges. Olivia squared her shoulders, ready to face it all, unaware that the biggest twist in her story was just around the corner. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the bustling streets of New York as Olivia made her way to Sinclair Tower. Her conversation with Jake still echoed in her mind, a bittersweet reminder of the changes in her life. As she entered the building, the familiar buzz of corporate activity enveloped her, but it no longer felt as alien as it once did. Olivia's phone buzzed with a message as she stepped into the elevator. It was from an unknown number. "Ms. Sinclair, we need to talk. Your father's past is catching up with him. Meet me at Central Park, Bethesda Fountain, 1 p.m. Come alone. M." A chill ran down Olivia's spine. The cryptic message stirred a mix of curiosity and apprehension in her. She debated whether to tell her father, but decided against it. After all he'd been through, she didn't want to worry him unnecessarily. The board meeting that morning was a blur of financial reports and strategic planning. Olivia found herself struggling to focus, her mind constantly drifting to the mysterious message. As the meeting concluded, Charles Winthrop approached her, a concerned look on his face. "Olivia, is everything all right? You seem distracted today." Olivia forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mr. Winthrop. Just a bit tired. The Bangkok deal took a lot out of me." Charles nodded, though he didn't look entirely convinced. "Well, don't push yourself too hard. Your father would never forgive me if I let you burn out." As the clock approached 1 p.m., Olivia made her way to Central Park. The Bethesda Fountain was crowded with tourists and locals enjoying the pleasant weather. She scanned the area, unsure of who she was looking for. "Ms. Sinclair," a voice said from behind her. Olivia turned to see a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "I'm glad you came. I'm Margaret Wells, a former employee of Sinclair Industries." Olivia's brow furrowed. "Former employee? I don't understand. What's this about?" Margaret glanced around nervously before speaking in a low voice. "Your father's company isn't as clean as you think. 20 years ago, I discovered some irregularities in the books, deals that didn't add up, money that disappeared and reappeared in offshore accounts." Olivia felt her world tilt. "That's impossible. My father would never." "Your father is a good man at heart," Margaret interrupted, "but he made some questionable choices when the company was struggling. I confronted him back then, and he paid me off to keep quiet. I took the money and left, thinking it was a one-time thing." Olivia's mind raced, trying to reconcile this information with the father she knew. "Why are you telling me this now?" Margaret's expression hardened. "Because history is repeating itself. I've been keeping an eye on Sinclair Industries, and I've noticed similar patterns emerging. Someone is manipulating the books again, and I fear your father might be involved." Olivia shook her head vehemently. "No, that's not possible. My father has changed." "He wouldn't, maybe not willingly," Margaret cut in, "but someone might be using his past against him. You need to be careful, Mrs. Sinclair. Start digging, but do it quietly. You don't know who you can trust." As Margaret turned to leave, Olivia called out, "Wait. Why tell me? Why not go to the authorities?" Margaret paused, a sad smile on her face. "Because despite everything, I still believe in the good your father can do, and because you, Ms. Sinclair, have shown that you have the strength to do what's right, no matter the cost." With that, Margaret disappeared into the crowd, leaving Olivia standing by the fountain, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The world she had just begun to feel comfortable in was suddenly shifting beneath her feet once again. As Olivia made her way back to the office, her phone buzzed with a message from Alex. "Hey Liv, hope your day is going well. The cafe misses you. Maybe stop by for a coffee later." Olivia smiled despite her tumultuous thoughts. Alex and the cafe represented a simpler time, a refuge from the complexities of her current life. But as much as she longed for that simplicity, she knew she couldn't run away from this. She had to face it head-on. Back at Sinclair Tower, Olivia found herself looking at everything with new eyes. The smiling faces of employees, the sleek modern decor, the awards and accolades lining the walls, all of it now seemed to hide potential secrets. As she settled into her office, Olivia knew she had a choice to make. She could ignore Margaret's warnings, trust in her father's redemption, and continue on as if nothing had changed. Or she could dig deeper, risking everything she had rebuilt with her father to uncover the truth. Taking a deep breath, Olivia opened her computer and began to search through old company records. She didn't know what she was looking for exactly, but she knew she had to start somewhere. Hours passed as Olivia delved into financial reports, board meeting minutes, and old news articles. Most of it seemed perfectly normal, but here and there she found small discrepancies, tiny threads that, when pulled, might unravel something bigger. As the office emptied for the day, Olivia remained at her desk, so engrossed in her research that she didn't notice the figure standing in her doorway until a voice broke through her concentration. "Working late, sweetheart." Olivia's head snapped up to see her father standing there, a warm smile on his face. Guilt and suspicion warred within her as she quickly minimized the windows on her computer. "Just catching up on some things," she said, hoping her voice sounded normal. "How are you feeling, Dad?" Raymond Sinclair entered the office, his gait still slightly unsteady from his recent health scare. "Better every day, thanks to you. You've really stepped up, Olivia. I'm proud of you." Olivia felt a lump form in her throat. The love and pride in her father's eyes made her question everything Margaret had told her. How could this man, who had supported her through her journey of self-discovery, be involved in anything illegal? "Dad," Olivia began, her voice hesitant, "can we talk about the early days of the company? About how you built all this?" A shadow seemed to pass over Raymond's face, so quickly that Olivia almost missed it. But when he spoke, his voice was light and reminiscent. "Of course, sweetheart, it's quite a story. Why don't we discuss it over dinner? I'll have James bring the car around." As Olivia gathered her things, a mixture of anticipation and dread settled in her stomach. She was about to step into unknown territory, navigating between her love for her father and her commitment to the truth. What she didn't realize was that this dinner would set in motion a chain of events that would not only challenge her relationship with her father, but would also put her newfound strength and principles to the ultimate test. The shadows of the past were long, and Olivia was about to discover just how far they could reach into the present. As she left the office with her father, Olivia felt like she was standing on the edge of a precipice. The truth lay somewhere in the darkness below, and she knew that once she took the plunge, there would be no going back. The real test of Olivia Sinclair, of her character, her resilience, and her love, was about to begin. The restaurant was one of New York's finest, a place where the city's elite came to see and be seen. As Olivia sat across from her father, surrounded by the soft glow of candlelight and the gentle murmur of conversation, she felt the weight of unasked questions pressing down on her. Raymond Sinclair looked relaxed, almost jovial as he perused the menu. You know, Olivia," he said, his eyes twinkling, "I remember bringing you here for your 16th birthday. You were so excited to be treated like an adult." Olivia smiled at the memory, feeling a pang of nostalgia for simpler times. "I felt so grown up," she admitted. "Little did I know how much I still had to learn." Raymond's expression softened. "You've come so far since then, sweetheart. Your mother would be proud of the woman you've become." The mention of her mother, who had passed away when Olivia was young, stirred something in her. It was now or never. "Dad," Olivia began, her voice low, "tell me about the early days of Sinclair Industries. How did you really build the company?" Raymond's smile faltered slightly, but he quickly recovered. "Well, it wasn't easy," he said, launching into a well-rehearsed story of hard work and lucky breaks. But as he spoke, Olivia noticed small inconsistencies, moments where he seemed to hesitate or gloss over details. As their main course arrived, Olivia decided to take a risk. "Dad, I met someone today, Margaret Wells." The effect was immediate. Raymond's fork clattered against his plate, his face draining of color. "Margaret Wells," he repeated, his voice strained. "How do you know that name?" Olivia took a deep breath, steeling herself. "She approached me, Dad. She told me about some irregularities in the company's past, about deals that didn't add up." For a long moment Raymond was silent, his eyes fixed on his plate. When he finally looked up, Olivia was struck by the mixture of fear and resignation in his gaze. "Olivia," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You have to understand. The business world. It's not always black and white. Sometimes, to survive, to protect what you've built and the people who depend on you, you have to make difficult choices." Olivia felt her heart sink. "So it's true. You really did those things?" Raymond reached across the table, grasping Olivia's hand. "I'm not proud of it, sweetheart, but at the time I thought I had no choice. The company was on the brink of collapse. Thousands of jobs were at stake." As Raymond began to explain, painting a picture of a young entrepreneur faced with impossible choices, Olivia found herself torn between empathy for her father's predicament and disappointment in his actions. "But Dad," she interjected, "that was years ago. Margaret said she's seen similar patterns recently. Is it happening again?" A flash of genuine surprise crossed Raymond's face. "Recently? No, Olivia. I learned my lesson. I've kept everything above board for years now." Olivia felt a glimmer of hope. "Then who—" Her words were cut off by the buzzing of her father's phone. Raymond glanced at it, his expression darkening. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, I have to take this. It's Charles." As her father stepped away to take the call, Olivia's mind raced. If her father wasn't behind the current irregularities, then who was? And why had Margaret been so sure of his involvement? Raymond returned to the table, his face grim. "Olivia, we need to go. There's been a situation at the office." The ride to Sinclair Tower was tense, with Raymond making hushed phone calls and Olivia's mind whirling with unanswered questions. As they entered the building, they were met by a frantic Charles Winthrop. "Raymond, thank God you're here," Charles said, his usual composure shattered. "The FBI is upstairs. They're saying something about financial irregularities, insider trading. They're seizing our records." Olivia watched as her father's face hardened into a mask of determination. "Charles, call our lawyers. Olivia, go home. I'll handle this." But Olivia stood her ground. "No, Dad, I'm a part of this company now. I'm staying." As they rode the elevator to the executive floor, Olivia's mind flashed back to her conversation with Margaret. Had the former employee gone to the authorities after all? Or was there more to this story than she knew? The scene that greeted them was one of controlled chaos. FBI agents were combing through offices, boxing up files and hard drives. In the center of it all stood a stern-faced woman who Olivia recognized from news reports as the lead federal prosecutor for white-collar crimes. "Mr. Sinclair," the woman said, her voice crisp, "I'm Agent Roberts. We have a warrant to search these premises and seize all relevant documents related to the financial activities of Sinclair Industries over the past 5 years." Raymond straightened, every inch the powerful CEO. "This is ridiculous. Sinclair Industries has always operated within the bounds of the law. Whatever you think you've found, I can assure you there's an explanation." Agent Roberts raised an eyebrow. "I'm sure there is, Mr. Sinclair, and we'll be very interested to hear it. In the meantime, I suggest you and your daughter refrain from accessing any company data or contacting any employees until our investigation is complete." As the agents continued their work, Olivia pulled her father aside. "Dad, what's going on? Is this related to what Margaret told me?" Raymond shook his head, his expression a mixture of confusion and growing anger. "I don't know, Olivia. But I intend to find out. Someone is trying to frame us, to bring down everything we've built, and I have a sinking feeling I know who it might be." Before Olivia could ask who he suspected, they were interrupted by a commotion near her father's office. An agent emerged, holding a stack of documents. "Agent Roberts," he called out, "you're going to want to see this." As the lead agent reviewed the documents, her expression hardened. She looked up, her gaze locking onto Raymond. "Mr. Sinclair, I'm afraid you're going to have to come with us. We have some questions regarding these offshore accounts and some very interesting transfers." Olivia watched in horror as her father was led away in handcuffs, the empire he had built crumbling around them. As he passed her, Raymond leaned in close, his voice urgent. "Olivia, listen to me. This isn't what it seems. Find Margaret Wells. She knows more than she's telling you. And whatever you do, don't trust—" But before he could finish, he was ushered into the elevator, leaving Olivia standing alone in the chaos of the office. As the reality of the situation sank in, Olivia felt a steely resolve settle over her. Her father might be guilty or he might be innocent, but one thing was clear. The truth was far more complex than she had imagined. With determination in her eyes, Olivia turned to face the investigators still combing through the office. She had embarked on a journey of self-discovery months ago, leaving behind a life of privilege to find herself. Now, that journey had led her to this moment, where everything she had learned, every strength she had gained, would be put to the ultimate test. As she watched her father's legacy being dismantled around her, Olivia made a silent vow. She would uncover the truth, no matter where it led or who it implicated. The real investigation was just beginning, and Olivia Sinclair was determined to see it through to the end. What she didn't know was that this investigation would lead her down a path darker and more dangerous than she could have imagined. The lessons she had learned on her journey were about to be tested in ways she never expected, and the truth, when finally revealed, would shake the very foundations of her world. As the office emptied, leaving Olivia standing alone amidst the wreckage of her family's empire, she felt the weight of the challenge ahead, but she also felt a surge of determination. She had faced adversity before and come out stronger. This time would be no different. With a deep breath, Olivia stepped into her father's now empty office. The search for answers began now, and she was ready to face whatever came next. The true test of Olivia Sinclair was about to begin. The days following her father's arrest were a blur of legal meetings, press conferences, and sleepless nights for Olivia. The once bustling Sinclair Tower now felt like a ghost town, with employees speaking in hushed tones and casting nervous glances her way. As the interim CEO, Olivia found herself thrust into a role she had never anticipated, trying to keep the company afloat while simultaneously working to clear her father's name. On this particular morning, Olivia sat in her father's office, now her office, staring at the wall of photographs chronicling Sinclair Industries' history. Her eyes fixed on a picture of her father shaking hands with Charles Winthrop, taken years ago when Charles first joined the company. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called, straightening in her chair. Alex entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. The sight of him in the corporate setting was still jarring to Olivia. "Thought you could use this," he said, placing 1 cup on her desk. "Any news?" Olivia shook her head, gratitude warming her despite the circumstances. After everything had fallen apart, Alex had been her rock, offering support and a perspective unclouded by corporate politics. Nothing concrete. The lawyers are still going through the evidence, but it doesn't look good. Those offshore accounts, they're real, Alex, and the paper trail leads straight to my father. Alex leaned against the desk, his expression thoughtful. "But you still don't believe he did it?" "I don't know what to believe anymore," Olivia admitted. "But something doesn't add up. My father's last words before they took him away, he wanted me to find Margaret Wells. He said she knows more than she's telling. Have you had any luck tracking her down?" Olivia shook her head. "It's like she's vanished. The address she gave me was a dead end, and there's no trace of her in any public records after she left Sinclair Industries 20 years ago." Alex's brow furrowed. "That's odd. Have you considered that maybe she's more involved in this than she let on?" Before Olivia could respond, her phone buzzed with a message. It was from an unknown number. "The truth lies in the foundations. Dig deeper. M." Olivia's heart raced as she showed the message to Alex. "It has to be from Margaret. But what does she mean?" Alex read the message, his expression thoughtful. "The foundations, could it be literal? The foundations of the company?" A light bulb went off in Olivia's mind. "The archives. There's a room in the basement where all the old paper records are kept, stuff from before everything was digitized." Without another word, Olivia and Alex headed for the elevator. As they descended to the basement, Olivia felt a mix of anticipation and dread. Whatever they found down here could change everything. The archive room was dimly lit and filled with rows of filing cabinets and shelves stacked with boxes. Dust motes danced in the air as Olivia and Alex began their search. "What exactly are we looking for?" Alex asked, running his finger along a row of faded labels. "Anything from around 20 years ago," Olivia replied. "Especially anything related to financial records or board meetings." Hours passed as they combed through old documents, their eyes straining in the low light. Just as Olivia was about to suggest they take a break, Alex called out, "Liv, I think I found something." Olivia rushed over to where Alex stood, holding a faded folder. Inside were minutes from a board meeting dated exactly 20 years ago. As Olivia scanned the document, her breath caught in her throat. This doesn't make sense," she muttered. "According to this, my father wasn't even at the meeting where the decision was made to open those offshore accounts. He was in the hospital that day. I remember because..." "Because what?" Alex prompted gently. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "Because it was the day my mother died. He never left her side." As the implications of this discovery sank in, Olivia's mind raced. If her father wasn't at the meeting, who had made the decision? And why wasn't this information in the digital records? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. Olivia and Alex exchanged alarmed glances. "No one else should be down here." "Quick, hide," Olivia whispered, pulling Alex behind a tall shelf. From their hiding spot, they watched as two figures entered the room. One was Charles Winthrop. The other, to Olivia's shock, was Margaret Wells. "Are you sure the old records are still here?" Margaret's voice was tense. Charles nodded. "Sinclair never got rid of anything. If there's evidence that could exonerate him, it'll be here." Olivia's mind whirled. Charles and Margaret were working together, but why? As the pair began searching through the files, Olivia felt a tug on her arm. Alex pointed to a side door, their chance to escape unnoticed. Clutching the folder with the crucial board meeting minutes, Olivia and Alex slipped out of the archive room. They didn't stop running until they were several blocks away from Sinclair Tower. Panting, Olivia leaned against a building, her mind struggling to process what they'd just witnessed. "Alex," she gasped, "what the hell is going on?" Alex shook his head, looking as bewildered as she felt. "I don't know, Liv, but I think we just stumbled onto something big. The question is, who can we trust?" As they stood there, the New York traffic rushing by, oblivious to their turmoil, Olivia felt the weight of her discovery pressing down on her. The document in her hand could potentially clear her father's name, but it also opened up a world of new questions. Who had really made the decision about the offshore accounts? Why was Charles working with Margaret? And most importantly, who was really behind the frame-up of Raymond Sinclair? Olivia knew one thing for certain. She was now in possession of information that powerful people wanted to keep hidden. As she looked at Alex, she realized that she had inadvertently drawn him into a dangerous situation. "Alex," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I think things are about to get a lot more complicated and potentially dangerous. You don't have to be part of this. I'd understand if you wanted to walk away." Alex's response was immediate. He took Olivia's hand, his eyes meeting hers with unwavering resolve. "Liv, I'm with you. Whatever happens, whatever we uncover, we're in this together." As they hailed a taxi, intent on finding a safe place to examine the document more closely, Olivia felt a mix of gratitude and fear. She was no longer just fighting to clear her father's name. She was unraveling a conspiracy that went deeper than she could have imagined. What Olivia didn't realize was that her discovery in the archives had set off alarms in places she couldn't see. Powerful forces were now moving against her, and the danger was far greater than she knew. The next phase of her journey was about to begin, and it would test her in ways she had never been tested before. As the taxi pulled away from the curb, Olivia clutched the folder close to her chest. She had pulled on a thread, and now the entire tapestry of lies was beginning to unravel. The question was, would she be able to handle the truth when it was finally revealed? The bustling city streets flew by outside the taxi window, but Olivia barely noticed. Her mind was focused on the challenges ahead, unaware that she was being watched by unseen eyes, her every move monitored by those who had everything to lose if the truth came to light. The game had changed, and Olivia Sinclair was now at the center of a storm that threatened to upend not just her life, but the very foundations of power in New York City. The safe house was a modest apartment in Brooklyn, far removed from the glittering world of Manhattan that Olivia had once called home. As she and Alex pored over the documents they had retrieved from the Sinclair Tower archives, the gravity of their discovery began to sink in. "Liv, look at this," Alex said, pointing to a section of the board meeting minutes. The decision to open the offshore accounts was proposed by Charles Winthrop. Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. Charles had been her father's right-hand man for years. The idea that he could be behind this frame-up seemed impossible, and yet the evidence was right there in black and white. "But why?" Olivia mused, running her hand through her hair in frustration. "Why would Charles do this? And how does Margaret Wells fit into all of this? As if in answer to her question, Olivia's phone buzzed with another message from the unknown number. Not all is as it seems. The truth lies in the reflection. Meet me where it all began. M. Olivia showed the message to Alex, her brow furrowed in confusion. Where it all began. What does that mean? Alex's eyes lit up with sudden understanding. The cafe, Liv, Joe's Corner Cafe. That's where your journey began, right? Olivia nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. It's public enough to be safe, but quiet enough for a private conversation. Clever. As they made their way to the cafe, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every passing car, every stranger on the street seemed suddenly suspicious. Joe's Corner Cafe was just as Olivia remembered it, the comforting smell of coffee, the gentle hum of conversation. As they entered, Olivia's eyes immediately fell on a solitary figure sitting in a corner booth, Margaret Wells. You came, Margaret said as Olivia and Alex slid into the booth across from her. I wasn't sure you would. Olivia cut straight to the chase. What's going on, Margaret? We saw you with Charles in the archives. Are you working together? Are you behind my father's frame-up? Margaret held up a hand, her expression pained. It's not what you think, Olivia. Charles and we're trying to protect your father. Alex leaned forward, his voice low. Protect him? By framing him for financial crimes? Margaret sighed heavily. The truth is far more complicated and dangerous than you realize. Your father, he discovered something. Something big. Corporate espionage. Insider trading on a massive scale. But the people involved, they're powerful, Olivia. Dangerous. When your father threatened to expose them, they came after him. Olivia felt her world tilting on its axis. So the frame-up was a way to protect him, Margaret finished. If he was in custody, accused of financial crimes, they wouldn't see him as a threat. It bought us time to gather evidence, to build a case that could bring them down for good. Olivia's mind raced, trying to process this new information. But why didn't my father tell me? Why all the secrecy? Margaret's eyes filled with sympathy. Because knowledge is dangerous, Olivia. The less you knew, the safer you were. Your father, he was trying to protect you just as he always has. As the full implications of Margaret's words sank in, Olivia felt a mix of emotions, relief that her father was innocent, anger at being kept in the dark, and a growing sense of fear at the magnitude of what they were up against. So what now? Alex asked, voicing the question on Olivia's mind. Margaret leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. Now we bring it all to light, but we have to be careful. These people, they have eyes and ears everywhere. One wrong move and... Her words were cut off by the sound of shattering glass. In a heartbeat, chaos erupted in the cafe. People screamed, diving for cover as gunshots rang out. Get down! Alex yelled, pulling Olivia to the floor. As they huddled under the table, Olivia's eyes met Margaret's. The older woman's face was a mask of determination and fear. Run, Margaret mouthed, before sliding something across the floor to Olivia, a small USB drive. Another volley of gunshots, and then suddenly, silence. As Olivia peered out from under the table, her heart pounding in her ears, she saw Margaret slumped in the booth, a dark stain spreading across her chest. We have to go, Alex urged, tugging at Olivia's arm. Now. In a daze, Olivia allowed Alex to lead her out of the cafe through the kitchen, the USB drive clutched tightly in her hand. They ran through back alleys and side streets, the sounds of sirens growing ever closer. Finally, breathless and shaken, they ducked into a small park, collapsing onto a bench. Reality came crashing down on Olivia as the adrenaline wore off. Oh, God, she gasped, tears streaming down her face. Margaret, they killed her. Because of me. Because I got involved. Alex wrapped his arms around her, his own voice shaky. This isn't your fault, Liv. You heard Margaret. This goes deeper than any of us realized. As Olivia's sobs subsided, she became aware of the small device still clutched in her hand. The USB drive, Margaret's final gift. Whatever was on it, it was important enough for people to kill for. What do we do now? Olivia asked, looking up at Alex. Alex's expression was grim but determined. We finish what your father started. We bring the truth to light, no matter the cost. As they sat there, the sounds of the city continuing around them as if nothing had happened, Olivia felt a steely resolve settle over her. She had started this journey to find herself, to prove her worth beyond the Sinclair name. Now she was embarking on a different kind of journey, one that would test every lesson she had learned, every ounce of strength she had gained. "We need help," Olivia said, her mind already racing with plans. "Someone we can trust completely." Alex nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Jake," he said simply. Olivia felt a pang in her heart at the mention of Jake's name. She had pushed him away, focused on her own journey, but now she needed him more than ever. As they left the park, heading towards Jake's apartment, Olivia felt the weight of the USB drive in her pocket. Whatever was on it held the key to unraveling this conspiracy, to clearing her father's name and bringing the true criminals to justice. What Olivia didn't know was that their escape from the cafe had not gone unnoticed. Even now, forces were mobilizing against them, determined to silence the truth before it could come to light. The city sprawled before them, a maze of possibilities and dangers. Olivia Sinclair, once a privileged heiress, then a searching soul, was now a fugitive, a guardian of dangerous truths. The final act of her journey was about to begin, and the stakes had never been higher. As they walked, Olivia's hand found Alex's, drawing strength from his presence. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The truth was within their grasp, but the path to revealing it would be fraught with danger. The sun was setting over New York City, casting long shadows across the streets. In those lengthening shadows, Olivia and Alex moved purposefully towards an uncertain future, unaware that their every step was being watched, their every move calculated by those who would stop at nothing to keep their secrets hidden. The stage was set for a final confrontation, one that would determine not just Olivia's fate, but the fate of her father, her family's legacy, and perhaps the very nature of power and corruption in the city she called home. The city lights blurred as Olivia and Alex made their way to Jake's apartment, constantly looking over their shoulders for any sign of pursuit. The events at the cafe had shaken them to the core, and the weight of the USB drive in Olivia's pocket felt like a ticking time bomb. Jake's surprised face greeted them as he opened the door. "Liv? Alex? What's going on?" "We need your help," Olivia said, her voice urgent, "and we need to come inside. Now." Once inside, Olivia and Alex recounted the day's events, the discovery in the archives, Margaret's revelation, and the horrifying scene at the cafe. Jake listened intently, his photographer's eye taking in every detail of their disheveled appearance and tense body language. "This is big," Jake said when they finished. "Bigger than anything I could have imagined. Are you sure you want to pursue this, Liv? It sounds dangerous." Olivia's eyes flashed with determination. "I don't have a choice, Jake. My father's freedom is at stake, not to mention the lives of who knows how many people affected by this corruption. I have to see this through." Jake nodded, a mix of admiration and concern in his eyes. "Okay, so what's our next move?" Alex held up the USB drive. "We need to see what's on this, but we can't use any device connected to the internet. They might be monitoring network traffic." "I have an old laptop," Jake said. "I use it for photo editing offline. Will that work?" Moments later, they huddled around the laptop as Jake inserted the USB drive. A folder appeared, filled with encrypted files. "Great," Alex muttered. "We need a password." Olivia stared at the screen, her mind racing. What would Margaret have used as a password? Something only Olivia would know. "Try Golden Cage," Olivia said suddenly. Jake looked at her quizzically, but typed in the phrase. To everyone's amazement, the files began to decrypt. "How did you know?" Alex asked. Olivia smiled sadly. "It's what my father used to call our penthouse. He mentioned it the night he proposed his test. Margaret must have overheard." As the files opened, they revealed a trove of information: financial records, emails, and surveillance photos. It was a damning collection of evidence pointing to a network of corruption that reached the highest levels of New York's business and political world. "Look at this," Jake said, pointing to a series of emails. "These go all the way up to the mayor's office, and here, there's mention of a silent partner who seems to be pulling all the strings." Olivia leaned in, her eyes scanning the documents. The silent partner, they're referred to by a code name, the Architect. As they delved deeper into the files, a clearer picture began to emerge. The corruption was vast, involving insider trading, bribery, and manipulation of city contracts. Olivia's father had stumbled upon it and had been gathering evidence to expose it all. "This is why they came after him," Olivia breathed. He was close to unraveling the whole operation. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the apartment. All three of them froze. "Someone's trying to break in," Jake whispered. Adrenaline surging, they quickly gathered the laptop and USB drive. Jake led them to a hidden panel in the wall, a secret compartment he used to store his most valuable camera equipment. "Get in," he urged. "I'll hold them off." "Jake, no," Olivia protested, but Alex was already pulling her into the cramped space. As the panel closed, Olivia and Alex heard the sound of splintering wood as the front door gave way. Through a tiny crack, they watched as armed men in suits entered the apartment. "Where are they?" a gruff voice demanded. "Who?" Jake's voice was steady, defiant. The sound of a fist connecting with flesh made Olivia wince. She started to move, but Alex held her back, shaking his head silently. "Don't play dumb," the voice continued. "Olivia Sinclair and her friend, we know they came here." "I haven't seen Olivia in weeks," Jake lied smoothly. "Now, if you don't mind, I'd like you to leave. Or shall I call the police?" There was a tense moment of silence, then the sound of retreating footsteps. "We'll be watching," the voice warned before the door slammed shut. Several agonizing minutes passed before Jake opened the hidden panel. His lip was split, a bruise forming on his cheek, but his eyes were alight with adrenaline. "Are you okay?" Olivia asked, reaching out to touch his face gently. Jake nodded. "I'm fine, but you two need to get out of here. They'll be back, and with more men next time." "Come with us," Olivia pleaded. Jake shook his head. "I'll be more useful here. I can keep an eye on things, maybe do some digging of my own. I still have contacts in the media. If things go south, I can get the story out." Olivia knew he was right, but the thought of leaving him behind tore at her heart. "Jake, He silenced her with a gentle kiss. "I know, Liv. Me too. Now go. Be safe." As Olivia and Alex slipped out of the building through a back exit, Olivia felt a mix of emotions churning inside her. Fear, determination, and a renewed appreciation for the people in her life who were willing to risk everything to help her. "Where to now?" Alex asked as they melted into the night crowds of New York. Olivia's mind raced, considering their options. They needed a safe place to continue their investigation, somewhere off the grid. "I have an idea," she said finally. "But you're not going to like it." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Try me." "We need to go back to where this all started," Olivia said. "Back to Joe's Corner Cafe." Alex looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "The cafe?" "Liv, that's the first place they'll look for us." Olivia shook her head. "Not the cafe itself. There's a hidden basement. It used to be a speakeasy during Prohibition. Susan showed it to me once. It's not on any building plans. We'll be safe there, at least for a while." As they made their way through the city, sticking to crowded areas and constantly watching for any signs of pursuit, Olivia felt the weight of their situation pressing down on her. They were fugitives now, hunted by powerful people who would stop at nothing to keep their secrets hidden. But as she glanced at Alex, saw the determination in his eyes that matched her own, Olivia felt a surge of hope. They had the truth on their side, and allies willing to risk everything to help them. What Olivia didn't know was that their every move was being calculated, analyzed by the very forces they were trying to expose. The architect, the shadowy figure at the center of it all, was already setting in motion a plan to crush their investigation once and for all. As they disappeared into the New York night, Olivia and Alex were unaware that they were walking into a trap more elaborate and dangerous than anything they had faced before. The final confrontation was approaching, and the stakes were higher than ever. The city stretched out before them, a maze of shadows and light, of dangers and possibilities. Somewhere in its depths lay the answers they sought, and the key to unraveling the conspiracy that threatened to destroy everything Olivia held dear. With each step, they drew closer to a revelation that would shake the foundations of power in New York City. But would they live long enough to bring the truth to light? The hidden basement of Joe's Corner Cafe was a time capsule, filled with dusty Prohibition-era bottles and faded photographs of long-forgotten patrons. As Olivia and Alex set up their makeshift command center, the weight of history seemed to press down on them. "Okay," Alex said, booting up Jake's laptop. "Let's see what else we can find in these files." For hours they pored over the documents, unraveling a web of corruption that seemed to touch every corner of New York's power structure. The more they discovered, the more daunting their task seemed. "Liv, look at this," Alex said, pointing to a series of financial transactions. "There's a pattern here. Large sums of money moving through shell companies, all leading back to one central account." Olivia leaned in, her eyes widening as she recognized the account number. That's one of Sinclair Industries' old accounts, one that was shut down years ago. Or so everyone thought, Alex mused. What if this is how they've been hiding their illegal activities? Using your family's old forgotten accounts as a cover. The implications were staggering. Not only had someone been using Sinclair Industries as a front for their criminal activities, but they had managed to do it right under her father's nose. As the night wore on, Olivia felt the pieces starting to come together. The architect, the shadowy figure behind it all, had to be someone with intimate knowledge of Sinclair Industries, someone who had been there from the beginning. A terrible suspicion began to form in Olivia's mind. "Alex," she said slowly, "I think I know who the architect is." Before she could elaborate, her phone buzzed with a message. It was from Jake. "They're closing in. You need to move. Now." Olivia's heart raced. "We have to go," she said, quickly gathering their things. "They've found us." As they hurried up the stairs, the sound of footsteps above made them freeze. Someone was in the cafe. "Back door," Olivia whispered, leading Alex through the kitchen. They slipped out into the alley behind the cafe, the cool night air a sharp contrast to the stuffy basement. But their relief was short-lived. Well, a familiar voice said, "Isn't this a surprise?" Olivia and Alex turned to see Charles Winthrop standing at the mouth of the alley, flanked by two burly men. "Charles," Olivia said, her voice tight. "Or should I say, architect?" Charles's eyes widened for a moment, before a slow smile spread across his face. "Clever girl. You always were sharp, Olivia, just like your father." "Why, Charles?" Olivia demanded. "Why betray my father? Betray everything Sinclair Industries stands for?" Charles's smile faded, replaced by a look of cold determination. "You couldn't possibly understand. The power, the wealth, it was all within reach. Your father was too noble, too ethical to see the opportunities in front of him. I simply helped myself by ruining lives, by corrupting the entire system," Alex interjected, disgust evident in his voice. Charles shrugged. "Collateral damage. Now be good children and hand over that USB drive. This little adventure of yours ends now." Olivia felt Alex tense beside her, ready to fight, but she knew they were outmatched. Her mind raced, searching for a way out. Suddenly, the alley was flooded with light. Car headlights blazed at both ends, momentarily blinding everyone. "NYPD, freeze!" The next few moments were a blur of activity. Police officers swarmed the alley, weapons drawn. Charles and his men were quickly subdued. As the chaos subsided, Olivia saw a familiar face approaching. Agent Roberts, the FBI agent who had arrested her father. "Ms. Sinclair," Agent Roberts said, a hint of respect in her voice. "I believe you have some information for us." Olivia nodded, still processing the sudden turn of events. How did you know?" "We've been building this case for months," Agent Roberts explained. "Your father was working with us, gathering evidence. When he was arrested, it was to protect him and to flush out the real criminals." As the full picture became clear, Olivia felt a wave of emotions, relief, vindication, and a deep pride in her father. "There's one thing I don't understand," Alex said. "How did you know to come here tonight?" Agent Roberts smiled. "You can thank your friend Jake for that. He's been our inside man, keeping us updated on your movements and findings." Olivia's heart swelled with gratitude. Jake had risked everything to protect them and to ensure justice was served. As Charles was led away in handcuffs, he turned to Olivia one last time. "You're just like your father," he spat. "Too idealistic for your own good." Olivia stood tall, meeting his gaze. "I'll take that as a compliment." The next few hours were a whirlwind of debriefings and statements. Olivia handed over the USB drive, watching as years of corruption and deceit were finally brought to light. As dawn broke over the city, Olivia found herself standing outside the federal building, exhausted but exhilarated. Alex stood beside her, a steady presence throughout the ordeal. "It's over," Alex said softly. "You did it, Liv. You saved your father, exposed the truth. Olivia shook her head. We did it. I couldn't have done any of this without you, Alex. Or Jake. As if summoned by his name, Jake appeared, looking as tired as they felt, but with a smile on his face. Looks like you two made quite a team, he said, a hint of wistfulness in his voice. Olivia looked between Jake and Alex, these two men who had stood by her through everything. She felt a surge of affection for both of them, but also a newfound clarity. We all did, she said, and I'm grateful to both of you, but I think I need to stand on my own for a while, figure out who Olivia Sinclair really is after all of this. Understanding passed between them. Jake nodded, squeezing her hand gently. You know where to find us when you're ready. As Jake walked away, Alex turned to Olivia. So, what now? Olivia looked out at the city, bathed in the golden light of dawn. It was the same New York she had always known, but somehow everything had changed. Now, she said, a smile playing on her lips, I think it's time for a new adventure. One of my own choosing. As they walked together into the new day, Olivia felt a sense of possibility she had never experienced before. She had started this journey searching for herself, and along the way she had found so much more: strength, purpose, and the power to make a real difference in the world. The Sinclair name would be cleared, the corrupt would face justice, and Olivia was ready to write the next chapter of her story, on her own terms. What she didn't know was that her journey had inspired others. Across the city, people who had witnessed her courage were beginning to question, to stand up, to fight for what was right. The ripples of her actions would continue to spread, touching lives in ways she could never have imagined. As the sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the city streets, Olivia Sinclair stepped into her future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She had found herself, and in doing so, had changed the very fabric of the city she called home. The end of this chapter was just the beginning of a new story, one that Olivia was finally ready to tell. The weeks following the dramatic takedown of Charles Winthrop and his corrupt network were a whirlwind of activity for Olivia. As the dust settled, she found herself at the center of a storm of media attention, legal proceedings, and corporate restructuring. On this particular morning, Olivia stood in front of the mirror in her old penthouse, adjusting her suit. The reflection that stared back at her was familiar yet different, the same features, but with eyes that held a new depth of experience and understanding. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Raymond Sinclair entered, looking more relaxed than Olivia had seen him in years. The ordeal had taken its toll, but with his name cleared and the true criminals brought to justice, he seemed to have found a new lease on life. "Ready for the big day?" he asked, a proud smile on his face. Olivia took a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be. Today was the day of the Sinclair Industries board meeting, the first since the scandal had broken. Olivia was set to present her vision for the company's future, a plan that would steer the corporation towards more ethical practices and community involvement. As they made their way to Sinclair Tower, Olivia's mind wandered to Alex and Jake. Both had been instrumental in her journey, and both held a special place in her heart. But true to her word, she had taken time for herself, focusing on her personal growth and the future of the company. The boardroom fell silent as Olivia entered. Faces both familiar and new looked to her expectantly. This was her moment, the culmination of everything she had learned and experienced. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," Olivia began, her voice steady and confident. "We stand at a crossroads. The events of the past months have shaken this company to its core. But from this crisis comes opportunity, an opportunity to redefine who we are and what we stand for." As Olivia outlined her vision, a plan that included ethical investment strategies, community outreach programs, and a commitment to transparency, she could see the mix of reactions around the table. Some nodded in approval, while others looked skeptical. Ms. Sinclair, one of the older board members, spoke up. "While your ideas are admirable, how can you ensure they won't impact our bottom line? Our shareholders expect returns." Olivia had anticipated this question. "I believe that ethical business is good business," she responded. "By investing in our community and operating with transparency, we build trust. That trust translates to customer loyalty, employee satisfaction, and yes, shareholder value. But more than that, it's simply the right thing to do." As the meeting progressed, Olivia found herself drawing on everything she had learned, from her time as a waitress to her harrowing experience unraveling the conspiracy. Each experience had shaped her, given her a unique perspective that she now brought to the boardroom. By the end of the presentation, even the skeptics seemed swayed. The board voted unanimously to adopt Olivia's plan, ushering in a new era for Sinclair Industries. As the board members filed out, offering congratulations, Olivia felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see her father, tears glistening in his eyes. "I am so proud of you," Raymond said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "You've become the leader this company needs, the leader I always knew you could be." Olivia felt a warmth spread through her chest. For so long she had sought her father's approval, tried to live up to the Sinclair name. Now, she realized, she had done so by being true to herself. As they left the boardroom, Olivia's phone buzzed with messages from Alex and Jake, both offering congratulations. She smiled, grateful for their continued support and friendship. Later that evening, as Olivia stood on the balcony of her penthouse, looking out over the city she had come to see in a whole new light, she reflected on her journey. From the privileged heiress to the struggling waitress, from the amateur detective to the corporate leader, each version of herself had contributed to who she was now. The city stretched out before her, a tapestry of lights and shadows. Somewhere out there, Joe's Corner Cafe was serving its evening customers. The thought brought a smile to Olivia's face. She made a mental note to visit soon, to reconnect with the people who had been such an important part of her journey. As she sipped her coffee, prepared just the way Susan had taught her, Olivia felt a sense of peace settle over her. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and opportunities, but for the first time in her life, she felt truly ready to face it. What Olivia didn't realize was that her actions had set in motion changes that would ripple far beyond Sinclair Industries. Across the city, other companies were taking note of her ethical stance. Young entrepreneurs were finding inspiration in her story. The very fabric of New York's business world was shifting, ever so slightly, towards a more conscientious approach. As the night deepened, Olivia's thoughts turned to the future. There was still so much to do, so many ways she could make a difference. But now she had the confidence and the clarity to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey that had begun with her father's test had led her here, not to a destination, but to a new beginning. Olivia Sinclair was ready to write the next chapter of her story, and in doing so to help shape the future of the city she called home. Little did she know, the echoes of her choices would continue to resonate, touching lives and inspiring changes in ways she could never have imagined. The true impact of her journey was only just beginning to unfold. 1 year had passed since Olivia Sinclair had stood in the Sinclair Industries boardroom and charted a new course for the company. The intervening months had been a whirlwind of change, challenges, and triumphs. On this crisp autumn morning, Olivia found herself standing in front of a familiar door, the jingle of bells above her head bringing a flood of memories. Joe's Corner Cafe looked much the same as it always had, a constant in a city of perpetual change. As she pushed open the door, the rich aroma of coffee enveloped her. Behind the counter, Susan looked up, her face breaking into a wide smile. "Olivia Sinclair," she exclaimed. "Or should I say, Ms. CEO?" Olivia laughed, embracing the older woman warmly. "It's just Olivia here, Susan, always." As Susan prepared her usual order, a habit Olivia had never quite shaken, Olivia took in the cafe. It was busier than she remembered, with a diverse crowd of customers filling the tables. "Business is booming," Olivia observed. Susan nodded proudly. "Ever since the story broke about your time here, we've become something of a local attraction. People come hoping to see where Olivia Sinclair's journey began." Olivia felt a mix of embarrassment and pride. Her story had indeed captured the public's imagination, but it was the lessons she had learned here, about hard work, empathy, and the value of every individual, that truly mattered. As she sipped her coffee, Olivia's eyes fell on a "Help Wanted" sign in the window. An idea began to form in her mind. "Susan," she said, "how would you feel about partnering with Sinclair Industries for a mentorship program? We could provide internships for your staff, help them gain experience in different fields." Susan's eyes lit up. "That would be amazing, Olivia. Some of these kids have so much potential, they just need a chance." As they discussed the details, Olivia felt a sense of things coming full circle. She was using her position to create opportunities for others, just as Joe's Corner Cafe had once given her the chance to discover herself. The bell above the door jingled, and Olivia looked up to see Alex entering the cafe. Their eyes met, and for a moment it was as if no time had passed. "I thought I might find you here," Alex said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Old habits die hard, huh?" Olivia smiled, feeling a familiar warmth in her chest. Over the past year, she and Alex had remained friends, their shared experiences creating a bond that time and distance couldn't break. "How's the photography business?" Olivia asked, genuinely interested. Alex's face lit up. "It's taking off. That series I did on the hidden stories of New York, inspired by your journey, actually. It's being exhibited at a gallery next month." As they caught up, Olivia marveled at how far they had both come. Alex had pursued his passion for photography, his unique perspective shaped by their adventures together. And she was no longer searching for herself. She had found her purpose. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion outside. A group of protesters had gathered, holding signs denouncing corporate greed. Olivia and Alex stepped outside, curious. To Olivia's surprise, she recognized some of the protesters. They were Sinclair Industries employees. "Ms. Sinclair," one of them said, recognizing her, "we're not protesting against you. We're standing with you, demanding other companies follow your lead in ethical business practices." Olivia felt a surge of pride and responsibility. Her actions, her company's new direction, were having a real impact. People were finding their voices, standing up for what they believed in. As the day wore on, more familiar faces appeared at the cafe. Jake stopped by, sharing news of his latest photojournalism project. Olivia's father made an appearance, now a regular at the cafe he had once dismissed as beneath his daughter's station. Even Charles Winthrop's name came up. He was serving his sentence, but had begun writing a memoir promising to expose further corruption in the business world. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the city, Olivia found herself sitting in a booth surrounded by the people who had shaped her journey: Susan, Alex, Jake, her father. Each had played a crucial role in the woman she had become. "I propose a toast," Raymond Sinclair said, raising his coffee cup, "to new beginnings and to the remarkable woman who brought us all together." As they clinked their cups, Olivia felt a profound sense of gratitude and purpose. She had started this journey searching for herself and had found so much more: a mission, a community, and a deeper understanding of the impact one person could have on the world. Later that night, as Olivia stood on the balcony of her penthouse, she looked out at the city with new eyes. New York had always been a city of stories, of dreams, of transformations. Her story was now woven into its fabric, and she was helping to write its future. In the distance, she could just make out the neon sign of Joe's Corner Cafe. It stood as a reminder of where she had come from and a beacon for where she was going. Olivia Sinclair had found herself, but the journey was far from over. There were more challenges to face, more changes to make, more lives to touch. But now she was ready to lead, to inspire, and to continue growing. As the city hummed with life below her, Olivia smiled. This was just the beginning. The next chapter was waiting to be written, and she had a feeling it would be the most exciting one yet. The girl who had started as a privileged heiress became a waitress searching for meaning, and emerged as a leader with a purpose, was now poised to make her mark on the world. And Olivia knew, with absolute certainty, that the best was yet to come.